Okay. First and foremost, I do want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High God, Yahweh. We do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. The world knows Him as Jesus Christ. Salaki, y'all. Somebody had moved out recently, and so they were making a lot of noise. The maintenance man, I don't know what he was doing up there, or wherever he was at. And I just didn't feel like it was fair for y'all to have to listen to all that noise, through the edification. So we had to wait, unfortunately. But we are A-OK now. All right, Shalom, Lily. What Azariah? I don't know if she's still in here. I'm pretty sure she's gone. Curious about what Azariah she's talking about. But I need to find my plug really quick. But how's everybody doing today? Y'all doing all right? Put a one in the chat if you're doing smooth, if you're doing all right, if you enjoyed yourself this week. We all kind of dealing with certain things. But that don't mean we just stop as a people. He said 1.5, all praises. I do have Shalom, Ayash. The word, man. The word, man. I got Shalom, King. Shalom, Lord in Christ. Where are you at right now? Did you zoomed in? What's going on with this filter? I ain't liking the filter. Oh, I'm doing all right, man. I am doing all right. There we go. Kind of ready to get this presentation going. You feel me? I don't know what he was doing upstairs, but that shit was annoying. So, I've for damn sure been talking about it for a minute. I'm about to, have. All right, so let me change all this. All right, maybe I do need to zoom out. right? If y'all have questions about anything, y'all could pose y'all question in the chat. Oh, you know what? This live might be a lengthy one. I got some Christian who said he wanted to debate me. I just told him he had I ain't saying buddy the link. Let me send buddy the link. We're gonna stay with this one really quick. Right, so the the video, of course, is the controversy of circumcision in the New Testament era, right? What was leading up to the Jews in the New Testaments to be so, strong about circumcision. Um, Let me make sure the presentation looking all right. Uh-huh. Okay. Now, some of these, of course, we're going to be reading in a regular Bible slide. And to be honest, I might just read off my book. Um, wasn't you the dude who was supposed to debate me and never hit me back about rescheduling? Was that you? I'm just curious. Of course. The slides are too long, but that's fine. That is fine. We'll wait for repent, pray, and read because you could definitely join the live when I'm done with the slides. For a friendly fade, if you want. If you want, you trying to make it like it wasn't gonna be easy work. Don't try to make it sound like I never hit you back. You did. You said you had an emergency, and I said that you never hit me back to reschedule because you said you had an emergency, which is understandable. I'm not knocking you for having an emergency. It's cool. Like I said, it was gonna be a walk in the park for myself. But like I said, you can click the link when I'm done with the presentation. You just gonna have to wait. You just gonna have to wait. No. Yeah, nope. Yeah, nope. Now, I don't like to do this, but apparently I have to share my whole screen in order to show y'all the slides. Let me connect my phone so I see what's going on. So that's you salute it out. You not finna stay and watch to the end so you can join the so you can click the link. That's what you're saying. So on, Gazal. What's happening, man? What's happening, man? Shout out to the brother out of Riverside. Let me share this damn. So let me see, make sure y'all be able to see all that. Yes, sir. So now hold on. The controversy of circumcision in the New Testament era, right? So you have these verses where in Acts 10 and 11, which we're going to go over Acts 10 and 11. We're going to go over John 4 with the Samaritan woman. We're going to go over Ephesians 2 a little bit. We're going to go over Romans 2. Those are all going to be me pulling up the Bible itself. I didn't put them on the slide. But it gives us a background understanding. It gives us more understanding about the children of Israel before the New Testament, right? So where do we begin? Well, there's three things. We need to understand the importance of circumcision, the history of the children of Israel and the term circumcision, and why would the law of circumcision be important in the New Testament, right? Because I mean, circumcision is mentioned quite a bit in the New Testament. There's other laws that are mentioned, but you don't really see circumcision like fringes. You don't really see circumcision like Passover. Circumcision, comes up a lot more than a lot of other laws, and there's a reason for it, right? So the covenant of circumcision, the when you just type in CIRCUM, right? Circum. If you just type that in and go in the Strongs, the very first time that we're going to see the word circumcision or uncircumcision or foreskin would be in Genesis 17, right? And in Genesis 17 is where Abraham received the covenant of circumcision. So the very first time we see the term circumcision or circumcised, etc., including uncircumcision and uncircumcised, whether the Strongs or just the word itself, is in Genesis 17. Right now, Genesis 17:4 says, "As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. Neither shall your name anymore be called Abram, but your name shall be called, or shall be Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made you, and I will establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you." Right? So this is where Abraham receives this covenant of circumcision, right? And he was told to circumcise everybody in his house, him being 99 years old. And there's nobody that is to be living around him or in his congregation that is not circumcised, right? They all have to be circumcised. So part of this covenant is that it's going to go to the generations that are coming after him, which would be Isaac and Jacob after that. But we see that his name is changed, right? It's no longer Abram, but it's also Abraham. It's the same thing like Jacob. When Jacob's name was turned to Israel, is when he wrestled with the angel, like Saul and Paul. Saul, whenever he was rebuked by Christ at Damascus, his name was changed from Saul to Paul. And there's a lot of other examples where people's names were changed. I don't know if y'all can hear that. But verse 7, it says, "And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you and their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto you and to your seed after you. And I will give unto you and to your seed after you the land wherein you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession. I will be their God. Right? So he's going to give whoever it is, well, the children of Israel, the land of Canaan, right? Predicated upon this circumcision or this covenant of circumcision. Right now, Acts 7 and 8, it says, and he gave him the covenant of circumcision. And so Abraham begat Isaac and circumcised him the 8th day. And Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat the 12 patriarchs, right? Exodus 12 and 43. And when a stranger shall sojourn with you and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. Now, when we going over this, you know, it really doesn't matter who, but all the doctrine has to be put to the side, right? What I mean by that is, if you feel like, oh, this is talking about this and this is talking about that, well, let's just put all that to the side right now. We're not talking doctrine. We're just talking about the history of circumcision. That's all we're talking about right now. So we can get clarification that is not blinded by our doctrine, right? So if anybody wanted to eat of the Passover, they would have to be circumcised, right? I'm not even gonna be fair. If an Israelite wants to eat of the Passover, they have to be circumcised. Abraham got a covenant of circumcision. So one of the highest holy days, you have to be circumcised in order to partake in it. And Abraham got an everlasting covenant that will go down to all of his generations. Of course, to Abraham, then to Isaac, then to Jacob, and then the 12 patriarchs. Because of circumcision, right? Leviticus 12 and 2. It says, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if a woman has conceived seed and born a man child, then she shall be unclean 7 days, according to the days of the separation for her infirmities, shall she be unclean. And in the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. So every male child must be circumcised. What the hell? What just happened to my phone? So moving forward, a couple more examples of circumcision, right? Deuteronomy 10 and 15. It says, only the Lord had a delight in your fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all people, as it is this day. Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart and be no more stiff-necked. So the reason why I keep bringing it up is because circumcision is important. It's not like it's not important in God's eyes. He always tells us to be circumcised. If you want to be a follower of him, you have to have a I'm jumping the gun. You see, jumping the gun. We're gonna get that in the next slide. But we see that your heart must be circumcised and that you be no more stiff-necked, meaning be spiritually circumcised, right? And stop being stiff-necked, stop being ignorant child, right? The next verse, Deuteronomy 30 and 5. And as the Lord thy God will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. And the Lord thy God will circumcise your heart and the heart of thy seed to the Lord to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. So again, we see circumcision of the heart being mentioned, right? And both of these are in reference of keeping the law. But we do have a separate law of circumcision itself, right? Leviticus 19 and 23. This is another form of circumcision or uncircumcision in the Old Testament, because before we can get to talk about circumcision in the New Testament, we have to understand what it is. When a male child is born, he must be circumcised the 8th day. There's no question about it. You have to be circumcised the 8th day. If you want to live amongst the children of Israel, you got to be circumcised, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But we're also commanded to circumcise the foreskin of our heart, which ultimately is keeping the law, right? Leviticus 19:23. And when you shall come into the land and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, then you shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. 3 years shall it be as uncircumcised unto you, it shall not be eaten of. Right. So then we see the term of uncircumcision, right? The fruit is it's referenced as uncircumcised. You don't eat it, right? It's no bueno, right? But when it is circumcised, then it's good to eat, right? So moving forward, the other side of circumcision, right? So it's not thou shalt circumcise on the 8th day, or don't eat the fruit because it is uncircumcised, or circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, or be circumcised if you want to keep the Passover or the Pesach. We're not talking about the law no more. Now we're kind of getting into a different angle of what circumcision is referenced as in the Bible. Because again, when we read circumcision in the New Testament, it can be applied different ways. I'm gonna show you. Genesis 34:13. So if anybody's not familiar with Genesis 34:14 or 13, this is when Levi and Simeon, them two, they wanted to get their lick back for their sister. And so they made a plot to have all of them circumcised to where they'll be, not capable of fighting as good the next day. And then they went and killed them all, right? But this is what they said. It says, in the sons of Jacob, this is before the law of Moses, the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor, his father, deceitfully and said, because he had defiled Dinah, their sister, and they said unto them, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. So a man who is uncircumcised, which we're going to get more examples, not only for the men, but also for the women coming from uncircumcised men. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in a second. Levi and Simeon are saying it will be a reproach if you're not circumcised, because it's looked at as a reproach, right? 1 Samuel 17:26. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, now David about to talk cash money right here, right? He about to run his mouth and he about to talk shit to Goliath, right? And what better way to call a nigga a name than to use uncircumcision or uncircumcised for them, right? What shall be done to the man that killeth the Philistine and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? So not only is he a Philistine, but he's an uncircumcised Philistine, because the Philistines didn't practice circumcision. So he's clowning him like, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Right? It's a reproach that this man who is uncircumcised and he's a Philistine is defying the armies of God right now. We got to put an end to this, because I don't know who this uncircumcised Philistine is, but he ain't finna do my people like that. That he should defy the armies of the living God. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he had defied the armies of the living God. So he's talking about Goliath, and he's talking shit, and he uses the term uncircumcised as a reproach, the same way Levi and Simeon said it will be a reproach if you were not circumcised, right? Judges 14:3. This is dealing with Samson. Then his father and his mother said unto him, is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all my people, that you goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said unto his father, get her for me, for she pleaseth me well. Right? So he wanted her, but his mom is saying, you can't find a woman of your own people because we practice circumcision. But you're going to go and find a woman from an uncircumcised people, an uncircumcised Philistine, that you going to go choose them, one of their women, instead of dealing with your, yeah, man, I don't know what. And he said, listen, I want that woman, right? Judges 15:18. And he was sore athirst and called on Yahweh and said, You have given this great deliverance into the hand of thy servant, and now shall I die for thirst and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised. That's the end of the verse, right? I didn't cut out uncircumcised Philistine. That's the end of the verse. Now I might say it in a different translation. But it's saying, Shalom Amash, but it's saying, you gonna let me fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? You're gonna let me fall into their hands, right? After, now this, mind you, after or before Judges 15 and 18 is where Samson slew 1,000 Philistines, right? So he slew him, he threw the jawbone, and then he got extremely thirsty, and he said, "You're gonna, I'm gonna die of thirst, and then I'm just gonna be given into the hands of the uncircumcised," right? So we see that circumcision is a law. And we see uncircumcision in the law as well in Leviticus 19. But then we also see uncircumcision used for a term of reproach, right? Or a term of disgrace, or a term of being defiled. He said, like in Genesis 14 and 13, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us, right? Isaiah 52 and 1, awake, awake, and put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. So he's saying that you're now a holy city, a righteous city. Put on your strength and put on your beautiful garments, because the uncircumcised and the unclean are not going to be going into you anymore, right? Y'all going to be completely holy. But he labels part of the defilement in uncircumcised and the unclean. Right. Where's my water at? Give me 1 second, y'all. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Salakia. My apologies. So, moving forward, right? Hopefully everybody's following along so far. We ain't really got in depth just yet, right? So, moving on. So we see 5 examples of uncircumcised used as a term of defilement or a ridicule or reproach, right? You have the uncircumcised and the unclean are no longer going to enter in while we become a holy city and having beautiful garments. We have uncircumcised Philistines, and then we have an uncircumcised man being a reproach unto us, right? So moving forward, oh Lord, I think I skipped something. I went the other way, right? Circumcision as a reproach, right? Getting more examples. So Exodus 6 and 12, it says, and Moses spake before Yahweh, saying, behold, the children of Israel have not hearkened unto me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips? And Moses said before the Lord, behold, I am of uncircumcised lips. How shall Pharaoh hearken unto me? So what does he mean by uncircumcised lips? It means that he wasn't good at speaking, right? He wasn't, very crafty with his words. So how can a man hearken unto me and I could barely even speak? I have trouble speaking, right? But he labels his trouble and his reproach and something that is, negative towards him as an uncircumcised lip, right? My lips are uncircumcised, right? So again, it's a term of reproach. Jeremiah 6 and 10, to whom shall I speak and give warning that they may hear? Behold, their ear is uncircumcised and they cannot hearken behold, the word of the Lord is unto them a reproach. They have no delight in it. So we're seeing different things. We're seeing, men can actually be uncircumcised. We're seeing that men can be circumcised. We're seeing that it's a reproach for somebody to be labeled as uncircumcised. But we're seeing that circumcision can be more than just circumcision of the flesh, right? And of the heart. There's more to the word circumcision than just the flesh and of the heart, because it's a term of reproach as well. Right now, if somebody says you have an uncircumcised heart, that's a term of reproach. But being labeled as, yeah, man, we're not talking to the uncircumcision. We don't know how they could be using that. We'd have to get the context of how they're using that, because I don't know if anybody ever asked themselves, but I've always asked myself as to how would they know if they're uncircumcised? Like, how would these people know that they're uncircumcised? Are they literally just like checking people like it's a sock check for essays? like what are they just like looking? Do they have like a card that says that they're circumcised? Like, how? That always was a question for me, right? So this is secular sources, the works of Philo, right? So Philo was born in 20 BC, first century BC, circa, in Alexandria, Egypt, a Hellenistic philosopher who was a Jew, right? So the man was a Jew. I know he may not look like it on the left side, but it's all right. They ain't really got the real Philo up there. But he was a Hellenistic philosopher and he was an actual Jew. So Philo's discussions of circumcision, clearly perceived within Judaism at this time, was a critical identity factor. Checking at the door is crazy work. Oh, I will read it again. Philo's discussion of circumcision, clearly perceived within Judaism at this time as a critical identity factor, may serve both to illustrate the tensions with Philo's Jewish and Greek context, and also to provide background to the debate about circumcision in the early church. So Philo and a lot of other people, and I mean, clearly the New Testament, the circumcision will be a major identity factor, right, as to who you were. On the special laws, let's see the quotation, which is his book On the Special Laws. Philo acknowledges that circumcision is ridiculed among many people. So in the time of the Greek Empire, which we're going to get to in a second, circumcision was ridiculed, right? It was a major problem for a time, not the whole series of time, because sometimes they did allow us to keep our customs, but most of the time circumcision was a major problem. Now we're starting to see why circumcision will be important to Israel, but did the Jews disappear in history? So some people who are just unfamiliar with the image on the right, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream and Daniel had the interpretation. It's mentioned in Daniel 2 and Daniel 7. We'll go over Daniel 7. We're not going to go over both. I am thinking about doing a breakdown on both Daniel 2 and Daniel 7, because the last one that Bazak did was lost through the major channel, I believe. I couldn't find it. But most Bibles come with just 66 books, right? Genesis to Malachi, which is the Old Testament, and Matthew to Revelation, which is the New Testament, Revelation. And in these books, it covers three major captivities that the Israelites had to endure through: Babylon and Assyria, the Medo-Persia, and the Roman Empire. Right? We have all three. Now, Daniel 7. Right? We're going to go over this really quick. I mean, a lot of biblical scholars agree. I don't think that there's really a debate on who are these four beasts outside of maybe some Israelites. They might have some other doctrine, but majority, which we do agree with the four beasts, is four different empires. Right. So Daniel 7:3 it says, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So hold on. If Gazal's still in here and Ayash is still in here, y'all can't answer this because that's unfair. But let me remove this pinned message. Who knows what this first beast is that was like a lion that had eagle's wings. So it's not like a regular lion. It's a lion with eagle's wings. Who knows what this first beast is? Let me know. Oh, you know what? I'm tripping. He over here trying to debate me in the comment section. I'm not debating you over there. The first beast would be Babylon and Assyria. I mean, I hope that y'all did see, but it's right there. Babylon and Assyria. The lion will represent Babylon, and the Assyrians will be the eagle's wings. Now, if you just look up a Babylonian Griffith, it's literally a lion with eagle's wings, right? You know, more so connecting it. But the eagle's wings being plucked up is the Assyrians coming out of power, right? That's when Nebuchadnezzar became king and he began to rule. When it says, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it, that's Nebuchadnezzar. Right. So Daniel 7:5. Now, again, all of this is important. It's very much so important. And I brought this up to many Christians on the street, and they just couldn't refute it. They just couldn't disagree with me because they never heard it like that before. And we were talking about circumcision, right? So circumcision does get brought up a lot, and it is something that, needs to be, not handled properly, but spoken about properly. And every time I bring this up, they seem to never have an answer. So Daniel 7:5 it says, and behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. So this beast would be the Medo-Persian Empire. Now the bear lifted up on one side, raised on one side, is the Persians being stronger than the Medes, right? And of course, the three ribs in his mouth is Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. Right? I'm gonna have to give a Bazak, because I would rather have him do that breakdown because he gave the best breakdown of Daniel 7 that I've ever seen. So Daniel 7:6. I'll just keep reading. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. The beast had also four heads, and dominion was given to it. This is the Greek Empire, right? The four wings would be the Diadochi or the Diadochi, which is the four generals that proceeded forth after Alexander the Great. Daniel 7:7. After this, I saw in the night's vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, strong and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. This is the Roman Empire, right? And the Roman Empire being extremely well at war, starting with Julius Caesar, and just dominating almost every battle that they've had, right? So Why is this? Why is Daniel 7 important? Why are these 4 captivities important? Well, here's why. When we go back, oh no, man, just kidding. Biblical characters, I spelled that wrong. Mind the misspell. In these empires, right? The Assyrian Empire was 732 to 605 BC. We have Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, and Jeremiah. Jeremiah was towards the end of it. He was kind of in both that and the Babylonian. So we have texts in the Old Testament that cover the Assyrian Empire. The Babylonian Empire was from 605 to 539 BC, which we have. All of these are circa, right? I'm not saying these are head on, like these are the years it started and it's all circle, meaning around that time frame. It could be 3 years before, 3 years after. It's just around there. But we have Daniel, we have Jeremiah, and we have Ezekiel. So we have 3 biblical characters in the Babylonian Empire. So we have history of the children of Israel in the Assyrian and the Babylonian Empire. The Medo-Persian Empire was from 539 to 383 BC. We have Ezra, Nehemiah, Zechariah, Zerubbabel, and high priest Joshua. And there's more, right? In each of these. I'm just showing y'all we have at least 3 people, which that's all we really need is 3 witnesses in each of these empires. You have the first beast, you have the second beast, and then after Malachi, it goes straight to Matthew. So we have the Roman Empire, which was 27 BC to 476 AD, at the fall of the Western Roman Empire. We have Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Peter, Paul, both for their epistles, so on and so forth, and John the Revelator. We're missing the third beast. That's what we're missing, right? We're literally missing years of Israelite history. So we're going from Medo-Persian Empire, skipping Alexander the Great, skipping the 4 generals, skipping Antiochus, and we're just gonna go straight to Julius Caesar and years after Julius Caesar. All right, so we can't do that, right? And this is where they always get trapped or tripped up, because I tell them, "Are you familiar with the vision in Daniel 7?" They'll say yes. I said, okay. Can you name me the 4 beasts? Sometimes they'll name it, sometimes they don't. It's cool as long as they get that it's 4 different kingdoms and Greek is one of them. And I'll tell them, we have history with these 3 beasts. What are the children of Israel doing in the around the third beast? What are we doing at that time? A lot of their answer is, I don't know. Or, well, that's why we have Maccabees. And I ask them, have you read it? Nah. Okay, well, what's happening with the children of Israel before the time of Matthew, right? Or John the Baptist, right? That's why we have the Apocrypha, right? Now, the Apocrypha, of course, it means hidden. The Apocrypha is a collection of 14 books that contain historical references to the children of Israel, prophecy, and wisdom, such as Wisdom of Solomon, Sirach, so on and so forth. And it covers the captivity of the Greek Empire and the Hellenization of the Jews. So then we're now complete. We now have the history from the Babylonian and Assyrian, from the first beast to the last beast. We have all the history of what the children of Israel were doing, and what they were going through in each of these 4 beasts. I hope this is making sense. So many writings contain the Apocrypha, including the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Greek Septuagint, the Alexandrian Canon, and the Codex Sinaiticus, and more, right? But the canonization of the Bible is something that I've been wanting to go to, but that's for another time, right? So let's discuss Hellenization of Jews, right? So this is Jewish acceptance of and rejection of Hellenism. So it says, great works have been written on the broad phenomenon of Hellenism and on the narrow problem of how the Jews reacted to it. The latest important study is that of Martin Hengel, which, I mean, his book is cool. It's outstanding. I don't agree with everything that he says, but his book is pretty, he was addicted to it. We could tell that he was addicted to Hellenism or Hellenization to the Jews. So moving forward, it says, who has assembled a mass of evidence in the attempt to show that Judaism, even of believers in the Torah, down to the reign of Antiochus the fourth. I'm terrible at Roman numerals. um, was heavily Hellenized. I'm gonna read it again. I'm gonna start from after Martin Hengel. It says, "Who has assembled a mass of evidence in the attempt to show that Judaism, even of believers in the Torah, down to the reign of Antiochus IV, was heavily Hellenized, meaning they took on a large amount of Greek culture, right? So it says, though there were some Jewish opportunities to Hellenism, as evidence in the book of Ben Sira, which he's a primary source. Hengel goes on to argue that as a result of the persecution under Antiochus, is that for? Hold on. Y'all can't get mad at my Roman numerals, man. That is 4. I know I wasn't tripping. I just lost my spot now. Antiochus IV. Those devoted to the Torah closed the ranks against full assimilation of Hellenism. So you did have people who were like, literally, we ain't getting down with it, right? You're gonna have to kill us, and we're gonna read about that in a second. So it says, although ancient Jewish literature is full of ethnic, moral, and religious polemics against non-Jews, Jewish texts, whatever their language, contain no verb comparable to the Latin pergere. Y'all see it, okay? Hey man, I got uncircumcised reading comprehension, and no contemptuous noun or adjective comparable to the Latin graciulus. Jews could have created a verb, hidiavin, become or act Greek, on the model of hidiahed, become or act Jewish, right? So they could have created a word that means to become or to act Jewish, or to become or to act Greek. So it says, as has been done in modern Hebrew, right? You see Esther 8:17. This is where it says that because of the fear of the Jews, many of them became Jews, right? And it's 2 different words for Jews there. One means in fact or in fraud. The other one means an ethnic Jew. So it says ancient Jews could have used the Greek Hellenizine as the church fathers did. Jews could have used Yavin, Greece, or Yavani, Greek, as terms of reproach. So they could have been using the words Yavani or Yavin as a term of reproach to mock them, kind of like David mocked Goliath, or we always use the term uncircumcision or stranger. It could be utilized as a mocking. When David says, I am becoming, never mind. Yet there is no trace that the Jews I read that wrong. Yet there is no trace that Jews so use such expressions. The word Greek is somewhat infrequent in the Jewish Apocrypha and Pseudepigrapha. Lord in Christ. Pseudepigrapha in Qumran texts and in rabbinic literature. Philo and Josephus employ it as a linguistic and ethnic term, usually without suggesting any opposition between Jewish and Greek, right? Moving forward, Josephus on the Jews, right, which is in Antiquity of the Jews. Listen, man, I don't know if I could live in the time of Greeks, man. I could it, boy. That's why is that? These names is tough. Agathocles of Cnidus, who wrote the Acts of Alexander's successors, reproaches us with superstition. So he reproaches us with superstition, as if we, by it, had lost our liberty, where he says thus, there is a nation called the nation of the Jews, who inhabit a city strong and great, named Jerusalem. These men took no care, but let it come into the hands of Ptolemy. So we allowed them to take control. As not willing to take arms, and thereby they submitted to be under an hard master by reason of their unseasonable superstition. Does anybody know what this is talking about? Because it's saying that we had no problem with Ptolemy just ruling over us. Does anybody know why that is? How long? Yeah, y'all might have to wait for part two. I might just release the whole video. That's what I'll do. I'm telling y'all, when Juno Greek came up, when Romans 2 comes up, we're going to read in a second. I'm telling you, it's so easy to it's so easy to confound it that it's not talking about non-Israelites, right? It's because we understood Daniel 7. We didn't have a problem with Alexander the Great ruling over us. That's why he never had a war with us, because we understood that he was the third beast to rule. That's why he calls it an unseasonable superstition. That we didn't fight against Ptolemy. We understood that he was going to rule. That we just going to kill ourselves for no reason. It says, but when Ptolemy had taken a great many captives, both from the mountainous parts of Judea and from the places about Jerusalem and Samaria and the places near Mount Gerizim, he led them all into Egypt and settled them there. And as he knew that the people of Jerusalem were most faithful in the observation of oaths and covenants, and this from the answer they made to Alexander, when he sent Lord in Christ an embassage to them after he had beaten Darius in battle. So he understood that we were faithful to our oaths and to our covenants. So there was no problem with him ruling over us, right? So Jews in ancient Greece, right? Now those were Jews in Egypt, which again still Hellenized, right? They would still be Hellenized because Ptolemy definitely ruled over us with rigor. But Jews in ancient Greece, it says Jews who accepted the authority of the Torah could not worship Greek gods or practice or tolerate, as did many Greeks, male homosexual intercourse. Some Jews were rigorous in interpreting the sacred text, which put restrictions on Jewish contacts with Gentiles, and some were more lenient. But for most Jews, some Greek practices, and some polite intercourse with Greek remained compatible with obedience to the Torah. So some were just extremely no contact. Some were a little bit of contact. Some was like, listen, there's no issue with it. You feel me? As long as I don't break the Torah, there ain't no issue with it. So it says in the letter of Aristes to Philocmes, y'all see it. The high priest Eleazar, and the Jewish elders who translated the Torah into Greek will not violate Jewish law, but manage otherwise to behave like perfect Greeks. So you literally had a time where we were obeying like perfect Greeks as long as we didn't break the law in which we observed, which we're going to read about Eleazar in a second. It says a royal decree directly excluded Gentiles from settling in Judea would have been so great a privilege for the Jews that our sources could not have passed over it in silence. Hence, the absence of Greeks from Judea probably was a consequence of the ban on pagan worship there. So Greeks at a time were not allowed because of the pagan worship. Where am I at? It says this absence of resident Greeks goes far to explain the slow progress of the Greek language in Judea, meaning not many people were speaking Greek and they didn't need to, right? Because there was a ban on Greeks. Pay attention, right? That's important. It says, whereas Jews in the diaspora quickly adopted Greek as their sole vernacular, It also explains why in Ben Sira's Judea Hellenism was still no issue. There were few, if any, Greeks in the country to imitate. Cato would well have envied Judea's freedom from Greeks. So you had a time where the Greeks were not rocking with the Jews were not rocking with no Greeks. There was a ban. Y'all can't come around here, right? There's there's a distinction between Jews and Greeks, and y'all not welcome over here, right? Y'all got to stay over there with your pagan worship. Y'all got to do this, this, and that. Could it mean the Jews that were scattered in the diaspora that made Greek their sole vernacular? What if they couldn't speak Hebrew? What if they didn't know the practices of Hebrew and they wanted to come? Would they also be kicked out and not be looked at as those who practice Judaism? Right? So we're now going to dive into the Maccabees. Now, I'm just going to read, bro. First Maccabees 1:1. Now, all of these are in the GNT. None of them are in the KJV. They're all in the GNT. So if you want the translation is GNT with all these verses in Maccabees. So First Maccabees 1:1. This history begins when Alexander the Great, son of Philip of Macedonia, marched from Macedonia and attacked Darius, king of Persia and Media. Alexander enlarged the Greek Empire by defeating Darius and seizing his throne. So this is starting at the rise of Alexander. So verse 8, after Alexander the Great's death, the generals took control, the four generals. Lord in Christ. And each had himself crowned king of his own territory. The descendants of these kings ruled for many generations and brought a great deal of misery on the world. The misery is Hellenization. That's the misery, right? Especially for the Jews. It was a misery to take on the Greek language. We're going to speak about the 8th of Tevet in a second. To worship Greek gods for a certain time. We're going to leave the presentation and then read chapters, not chapters, but large amounts of certain chapters of Maccabees, and we're going to find out how evil we were, right? Verse 10, it says, the wicked ruler Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus III of Syria, was a descendant of one of Alexander's generals. Antiochus Epiphanes had been a hostage in Rome before he became king of Syria in the year 137. At that time, there appeared in the land of Israel a group of traitorous Jews who had no regard for the law and who had a bad influence on many of our people. They said, let us come to terms with the Gentiles. The Gentiles will be the Greeks. Saying, hey, man, listen, let's come to terms with the Gentiles. You know, maybe it's not so bad. For our refusal to associate with them has brought us nothing but trouble. It brought us nothing but trouble. Let's just agree with them and do what they want us to do, right? This proposal appealed to many people, and some of them became so enthusiastic about it that they went to the king and received from him permission to follow Gentile customs. They built in Jerusalem a stadium like those in the Greek cities. They had surgery performed to hide their circumcision, abandoned the Holy Covenant, started associating with Gentiles, and did all sorts of other evil things. So it mentioned circumcision for a reason. Now, this is not on the slide because, well, I don't really know. Does anybody know where gyms come from? You know, where people, you know, they got a gym membership, they go to a gym and they all work out at one spot. Does anybody know where that came from? And what was happening in those spots? Judah Love, I ain't gonna cap. You be sounding bugged out sometimes. So I don't know if you be playing, because you know, you be tripping sometimes. I ain't even gonna cap to you. I appreciate the love and support, sister. Right, but does anybody know, why or where gymnasiums came about? Let me know. Let me know. I don't want to bite the dust, man. Um, well, the Greeks practiced it. Oh, I didn't put that on there. I got a source. Oh, I got a source. I'm gonna show y'all. Um, Greek bathhouses. Yeah. But they also had a place where they would all work out in a single area. Right? They would all work out in a single area, and there was no clothes involved. Right? There was zero clothes involved. So I y'all get it. Um, so that's where gymnasiums come from. And this is why a lot of the statues that you see of Greek, like Greek statues, they're not wearing any clothes. The Greeks thought of the body as like a work of art. So they would of course build muscles, and they wouldn't want to do anything or alter anything of the body outside of what is natural, right? So they wouldn't like circumcision, or they don't like circumcision, right? They were against circumcision because circumcision would be a alteration of the body, right? You're taking something from the body that is supposed to be there. They believe that you shouldn't do that, right? So that's why circumcision was part of it. That's why they wanted to have surgery to hide their circumcision, because they wanted to see, like, hey, listen, my body is perfect. This is how I came out the womb. Um, so that's why it was such a big deal. And it's one of Greek customs is to be uncircumcised. They have many other customs, but that's one of them, right? And a lot of nations do not practice circumcision, but the Jews did. So that would be and that's one of the laws that we were strong on. We see that Martin, let's go back to, oh, I'm going the wrong way. So lucky. Um, where is it at? See that Philo said that in his discussion that clearly perceived within Judaism at this time as a critical identity factor. You know what? I'm gonna show y'all something that was hilarious. I didn't want to put it up there, but I gotta show y'all because it's kind of funny. Um, watch this. Hold on. Let me end this. Let me go back here. Remove this. I'll show you something. I gotta see which one it is. Okay. So this is a book. It's Martial Epigrams. Right? Anybody can look it up. It's the English version, of course, because we can't read it in Greek. Let me. I gotta be able to see it. Hold on. Let me show y'all. Hey, so watch this, right? So it says, Menophilus, a person, a sheath covers so enormous, Menophilus's person, a sheath covers so enormous that it alone would be sufficient for the whole tribe of comic actors. This fellow I had imagined, for we often bathe together. Right, that goes back to Mike 298, the whole bathing thing. Solicitous to spare his voice, Flaccus. Okay, boom. Watch this. But while he was exercising himself in the view of the people, because again, they would work out in front of people with no clothes on. It says, in the middle of the exercise ground, the sheath unluckily fell off. Lo, he was circumcised. Y'all can only, I'm not going to explain it, but you see that number 5 right here, and then it says, i.e. a Jew. So, it labeled him as a Jew because of the circumcision. But he was always talking to people. They seen him without clothes on before, but when the sheath unluckily fell off, he was circumcised, i.e. a Jew, because that was our custom, circumcision, right? Let's go back to the presentation. Oh, I gotta stop. That's so annoying, bro. I can't share my presentation. Full screen. Oh, I could do this one. Oh no, does this work? Oh, y'all can't see it full screen. I'm in full screen mode right now. Y'all can't even see it. Okay, so we see that these people were performing surgeries to be uncircumcised again, because to be circumcised you would be labeled as a Jew, and they wanted to fully be looked at as a Greek. So they would take on the language, they would take on the customs, they would hide their circumcision, and it says abandoned the holy covenant, started associating with Gentiles, and did all sorts of other evil things. Meaning, they're like, listen, we want to be all the way in, right? And we're going to read about that in a second. So the traitorous Jews. Now, I don't know if y'all familiar with it, but we are storytellers. That's who we are. We tell stories. We tell stories about the history of our people, the wars of our people, the courageous acts of our people, the evil of our people. We tell those stories. That's what we always do. And for those of y'all who understand that there's no new thing under the sun, I was talking to a powerful brother in Tazarap in Las Vegas, and he says, I know people that are killing each other over a gang right now, and I know when it started. It started with 2 people. Then the 2 families got involved, and then the 2 gangs got involved. That's where it started. Now all of them are dead. They're all dead. That started the problem. But people are still killing because of that one issue, because there's just too much bloodshed to just let it go. It's too much bloodshed to let it go. You have righteous Jews who were trying to keep the covenant of the Lord, and then you have the unrighteous Jews that consistently showed that they want to fully enjoy the Greek life, right, and abandon their brothers. And it gets worse, right? So the traitorous Jews. First Maccabees 1:30. It says the commander spoke to the people, offering them terms of peace and completely deceiving them. Then he suddenly launched a fierce attack on the city, dealing it a major blow and killing many of the people. He plundered the city, set it on fire, tore down its buildings and walls. He and his army took the women and children as prisoners and seized the cattle. Then Antiochus and his forces built high walls and strong towers in the area north of the temple, turning it into a fort. They brought in a group of traitorous Jews and installed them there. Meaning you had Jews who wanted to be Greek, but they utilized those Jews to run the temple. Traitorous Jews. Therefore, when the righteous Jews, the Jews that are trying to keep the law, encounter them, it's now building a hatred between 2 different Jews. One who wants to be a Greek, the other one who wants to remain his own people, right? First Maccabees 1:41. Antiochus now issued a decree that all nations in his empire should abandon their own customs and become one people. all the Gentiles, and even many of the Israelites submitted to this decree. They adopted the official pagan religion, offered sacrifices to idols, and no longer observed the Sabbath. Now, mind you, Antiochus is a Greek. If he wanted them to be one people and Israelites agreed to that, the Israelites would then be agreeing to become Greek. If he says, I want y'all all to be one people, they would all be Greek. Meaning you had Israelites that are willingly wanting to be Greek. Verse 44, it says, the king also sent messengers with the decree to Jerusalem and all the towns of Judea, ordering the people to follow customs that were foreign into the country. First Maccabees 1 and 46. They were even ordered to defile the temple and the holy things in it. They were commanded to build pagan altars, temples, shrines, and to sacrifice pigs and other unclean animals there. They were forbidden to circumcise their sons and were required to make themselves ritually unclean in every way they could, so that they would forget the law which the Lord had given through Moses and disobey all its commandments. The penalty for disobeying the king's decree was death. So, one, he wanted to make us unclean in every single way. But there's a reason why circumcision was mentioned, because we value circumcision. We've seen it all throughout the examples in the Old Testament. Circumcision is something that is part of our covenant. It's literally the first covenant that was given to Abraham, the covenant of circumcision. And he said, listen, this is the promise that I'm going to be making between you and your seed. Y'all get this covenant, and the sign of this covenant is circumcision. Right? And Paul speaks about that in Romans 4. So again, we have circumcision being mentioned again. And if you have traitorous Jews that have no problem being uncircumcised and following the Greek customs, you will also have Jews that weren't with it. And we're going to read about it in a second. And we're going to see this animosity built up. Right? Again, this has nothing to do with salvation's only for Israel. This has nothing to do with do we have to keep the law or not. This is just the history of the children of Israel before the New Testament. Right? Acceptance and rejection. Right? First Maccabees 1 and 52. Many of the Jews were ready to forsake the law and to obey these officials. They defiled the land with their evil, and their conduct forced all true Israelites to hide wherever they could. So it literally telling us there is now a rivalry between the Jews who want to be Greek and the Jews who do not. There's now a rivalry between the two. Any questions so far? Before I haven't done that, but any questions so far? Put a 1 in the chat if you're following along. Put a 2 in the chat if you're a little bit confused of what exactly is going on. Put a 3 in the chat if you want me to repeat something. Put a 1 in the chat if you're following along. 2 if you don't get it, and the 3 if you want me to repeat something. All praises, Mike 298. Appreciate it much so. You the only brother that gonna vote. It's all good. It's all good. I know that if I record the video and release it, a lot more people will watch it because the lives is just not rocking with the algorithm right now. So First Maccabees 1:57, it says, and anyone who was caught with a copy of the sacred books or who obeyed the law was put to death by order of the king. Month after month, these wicked people used their power against the Israelites caught in the towns. So again, now we have this. Lily is watching Ahaziah, and Katrina. I don't know who Katrina is. I ain't gonna cap to you. Oh, you know what? I know what I didn't do. That's what I didn't do. All right. So, let me go back. So, we're seeing now that we have to forsake our law, and some Israelites are okay with it. A lot of Israelites weren't. Right? Lord, what is happening? So First Maccabees 1:60. It says, mothers who had allowed their babies to be circumcised were put to death in accordance with the king's decree. Their babies were hung around their necks, and their families and those who had circumcised them were put to death. That's not going unspoken about. If we're reading it in the book of First Maccabees, they were talking about it. And if that information was passed down from generation to generation to generation, it would still be passed down in a time of Christ, in the time of Paul, where our children were being killed because we tried to keep the law of circumcision. Right? Our enemies were killing us because we tried to keep the law of circumcision. There were some Jews who were just okay with it, but we were not. Right? Those who were down for the law of the Heavenly Father were not okay with it. Right? It says, verse 62, but many people in Israel firmly resisted the king's decree and refused to eat food that was ritually unclean. They preferred to die rather than break the holy covenant and eat unclean food. And many did die. Right? So just imagine how many Jews in the New Testament are hearing these stories about their ancestors who died trying to keep the law, who died righteously, trying to keep the law of circumcision, right? The 8th of Tibet, right? Now I'm gonna show y'all how much of a impact it had on us, right? So the 8th of Tibet marks the translation of the Torah from Hebrew into Greek, known as the Septuagint, which occurred during the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt around 250 BC. This event signifies the beginning of Jewish culture assimilation into Greek culture, right? So this is the transferring from our culture into Greek culture. We had to take our Hebrew text and translate them into Greek, leading to a loss of cultural identity. The Septuagint's creation had lasting impacts. Right now, of course, this is from modern day. This is from modern day people who claim to be Jews. Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 582. It says, on the 8th of Tevet, the Torah was written in Greek during the days of King Ptolemy, and darkness was in the world for 3 days. So he labeled it as darkness in the world. It was completely dark, bro. It was just a dark time for us because we had to take our writings from Hebrew, our chosen language, to an uncircumcised language. Right? Tractate Sephirim 1 and 7, it says, it once happened the 5 elders wrote the Torah for King Ptolemy in Greek, and that day was a ominous for Israel as the day on which the golden calf was made, since the Torah could not be accurately translated. So he's literally telling us it's just as worse as us creating that golden calf in the wilderness. And that was bad. Right? So it's literally a time of evil, a day of evil for us to even translate our Hebrew text into Greek, which tells us what? Just changing the language of our scriptures was a terrible time for us. We were all mourning, we were all crying, we were all weeping because our texts are now in an uncircumcised language, right? And it's the same thing when we were being persecuted by Antiochus, and you had some Jews that were just okay with it, but a lot of us weren't, right? So the beginning of the revolt, Right, so First Maccabees 2:17, it says, the king's officials said to Mattathias, you are a respected leader in this town. These are Greek officials, right? They're saying to Mattathias, and you have the support of your sons and relatives. Why not be the first one here to do what the king has commanded? All the Gentiles, the people of Judea, and all the people left in Jerusalem have already done so. If you do it, you and your sons will be honored with the title of friends of the king, and you will be rewarded with silver and gold and many gifts. Mattathias answered in a loud voice. So mind you, they're giving him a gift of being a friend of the king. Right now, again, I want y'all to stay to the end of us reading the Maccabees, because they literally put these stories in the temple. So imagine the Jews in the New Testament that are in the temple. They're reading these great stories about the Maccabean revolt, but they're also reading about the traitorous Jews. We cannot forget that, right? We cannot forget about these traitorous Jews who wanted to be uncircumcised. And if they had children, they had surgery to be uncircumcised. But what about their children? They're not circumcising their children. So their children will be raised up uncircumcised. Verse 19, Mattathias answered in a loud voice, I don't care if every Gentile in the empire has obeyed the king and yielded to the command to abandon the religion of his ancestors. My children, my relatives, and I will continue to keep the covenant that God made with our ancestors. With God's help, we will never abandon his law or abandon his commands. We will not obey the king's decree, and we will not change our way of worship in the least. So he was staying on business. First Maccabees 2:23. Just as he finished speaking, one of the men from Modin decided to obey the king's decree and stepped out in front of everyone to offer a pagan sacrifice on the altar that stood there. So as Mattathias gave this great speech about him not even budging, you have this other Jew who's like out in front and then said, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice this unclean thing on this altar to this Greek god. Watch what Mattathias did. Verse 24, when Mattathias saw him, he became angry enough to do what had to be done. Shaking with rage, he ran forward and killed the man right there on the altar. He also killed the royal official who was forcing the people to sacrifice, and then he tore down the altar. In this way, Mattathias showed his deep devotion for the law, just as Phinehas had done when he killed Zimri, the son of Zalu. So he was willing to die for the commandment, and he was also willing to kill for it too, right? The reconciliation of heritage. Now, mind you, all of this is important. All of this is important because it leads us up to the time of the Jews in the New Testament. If we do not have this information, and it talks about the circumcision and the uncircumcision, the Jew or the Greek, well, of course, we automatically think that it's talking about non-Jews when we look at the Strongs. But when we just disregard all of the history of the children of Israel in the time of the Greek Empire, yeah, you will have more of an argument. But when we utilize the history of the children of Israel in this empire, there's no way. There's no way, right? Because it gets worse, but it gets better for our argument. First Maccabees 2:42. And if you guys have any questions about the Bible, any questions about anything, you can definitely shoot your questions in the chat, no problem. First Maccabees 2:42. It says, then Mattathias and his friends were joined by a group of devout and patriotic Jews, the strongest and bravest men in Israel, who had all volunteered to defend the law. In addition, everyone who was fleeing from the persecution joined them and strengthened their forces. Now that they had an army, they gave vent to their anger by attacking the renegade Jews. Those who escaped were forced to flee to the Gentiles for safety. So they began to kill the Jews who chose to go full on Greek, right? Uncircumcision, worshiping their deities, help build that stadium in Jerusalem. They was hunting all of them down, and the rest of them had to flee and go to the other Greeks and the other Gentiles for safety because they couldn't find it within their own people. Right, verse 45. This is important. Mattathias and his friends went everywhere, tearing down pagan altars and circumcising by force every uncircumcised boy they found within the borders of Israel. Circumcision was a big deal. So they went around and forcibly circumcised every man or every boy who was not circumcised. It says they were also successful in hunting down the arrogant Gentile officials. They rescued the law of Moses from the Gentiles and their kings and broke the power of the wicked king Antiochus. Not they killed him, but they just broke his power. So again, now we're seeing that they're regaining their power, right? The reconciliation of heritage. They're now taking charge and now establishing the law of Moses again. Verse 49, when a time came for Mattathias to die. Now, this is important. This is very important because he says something that the Jews still repeated in the New Testament. Not because they literally said it and I could show you, but because that's how we were. And what was written in the temple was the words of these brothers of the Maccabean revolt or of the Maccabees. It said, he said to his sons, these are times of violence and distress. Arrogant people are in control and have made us an object of ridicule. But you, my sons, must be devoted to the law and be ready to die to defend God's covenant with our ancestors. Remember what our ancestors did and how much they accomplished in their day. Follow their example, and you will be rewarded with great glory and undenying fame. Now somebody can take these outstanding words of Mattathias, the outstanding words of Judas, Jonathan, and what's the other brother, Simon. They could take the words and then alter it to evil, right? To forcibly trying to utilize the law just to get fame, right? People can do that, and they did do it. This is why we have the scribes and the Pharisees in the New Testament. But watch this. A path to great glory, or the path to great glory, right? So First Maccabees 2:61. Daniel was the man of integrity. This is Mattathias explaining to his sons about different acts of our fathers, right? So again, this is our people. We just do that. It's in Acts 7. It's in Acts 13. It's in James 2. We always repeat the acts of our fathers because they showed great faith, they showed great glory, they showed great strength, and they showed great humility to the Heavenly Father. So Daniel was a man of integrity, and the Lord rescued him out of the mouth of the lions. Teach each of these ancestors of ours as an example, and you will realize that no one who puts his trust in the Lord will ever lack strength, right? Don't be afraid of the threats of a wicked man. Remember that he will die and all his splendor will end with worms feeding on his decaying body. Today he may be highly honored, but tomorrow he will disappear. His body will return to the earth and his scheming will come to an end. Verse 64 is important. But you, my sons, be strong and courageous in defending the law. Defend the law, because it is through the law that you will earn great glory. Right? You will earn great glory through the law. Now, mind you, they just got done forcibly circumcising all the boys. Circumcision is something that is big. Now, somebody can read this, pass it down, and then strictly it's just the law, no faith in Christ, because that's not even part of the law. No. It's just the law. That's how we get great glory. Look at our fathers. They didn't need faith in this Yahweh Shai, right? They didn't need it. So the introduction of Judas Maccabees, right? Now, mind you, I just want y'all to understand we are the same people, bro. We are the same people. In the same way that niggas just tell stories of, and it just gets, uplifted. You feel me? You have that one dude that everybody swears the greatest fighter in the world because, the talk of the town, he don't beat the brakes off of somebody. But if somebody comes around, just dogs walk him. Right? We can extol things to the clouds, and then we can also extol things to evil, right? Which is loving the law so much that you deny Christ. Right? First Maccabees 3:20. Our enemies are coming against us with great violence, intending to plunder our possessions and kill our wives and children. But we are fighting for our lives and for our religion. Again, all of this is important. The passion that Judas Maccabeus had, the passion that Mattathias had, the words that these brothers displayed is all important, and we all have to take in consideration because it plays a major part in the New Testament. Right? First Maccabees 3:25 says, after that, Gentiles everywhere began to be afraid. Right? So Judas, he didn't want a great battle, right, of Judas and his brothers. His fame reached the ears of King Antiochus, and people in every nation talked about Judas and his victories. Now, mind you, this is after we're told you fight for the law, you fight for the religion, and it is through the law that you will earn great glory. Right? This is what's told. Now, imagine just growing up in the temple and you're just reading these stories, hearing these stories about Judas Maccabeus and circumcision. Right? Everybody's circumcised in this temple. Right? Yeah, they killed everybody because they wouldn't allow us to circumcise. And our children were hanged because they were circumcised. The baby that couldn't even talk was hanged because he was circumcised. And the mothers were killed because they chose to serve the Lord and circumcise their children on that 8th day. Imagine being told that as a kid and then growing up and seeing Jews uncircumcised. Because the same time that you're told about what was happening to our children, what was happening to our women about circumcision, is the same that we are told about the traitorous Jews who chose to be uncircumcised. Imagine the hatred that you will have to an uncircumcised Jew if you were that child. Now, mind you, it gets worse for the traitorous Jews, and it makes more sense for us. Right? First Maccabees 3:50. The whole community prayed, Lord, what shall we do with these things? Right now, mind you, this is when they were going to start destroying or taking the things out of the temple. Where shall we take them? Now that your holy temple has been trampled and profaned by Gentiles, and your priest mourned in disgrace, the Gentiles have come to attack and destroy us. You know what they plan to do. If you don't help us, how can we stand up against them? Mind you, the whole community is praying for this. We're all together, banding together, and we're praying that the Lord will deliver us from the Gentiles, right? The purification of the temple, right? First Maccabees 4:48. Now, mind you, I'm skipping a lot of history because, quite frankly, we would have to read the whole book of Maccabees, and I just don't think that we're going to do that. All right, so I'm skipping a lot of history. First Maccabees 4:48. It says they repaired the temple inside and out and dedicated its courtyards. They made new utensils for worship and brought the lampstand, the altar of incense, and the table for the bread into the temple. Now, mind you, that's not, that's just a picture. All right, that don't sit up here and think that that's what they built. Verse 50. They burnt incense on the altar and lit the lamps on the lampstand, and there was light in the temple. They placed the loaves of bread on the temple or on the table, hung the curtains, and completed all the work. Right, so I believe to like verse 61, and I believe it happens even before. It's just talking about the rebuilding of the temple, right? Why is all of this important? Right? One, the Jews are forced to forsake the customs of Moses, including circumcision. That's important. We see Mattathias tell his children at his death that through the law we get great glory. We see him forcefully circumcising all the uncircumcised males after his victory. And after all that, the whole community begins to pray and follow the laws of Moses again, and finally regaining the temple. Right? So we're seeing that this circumcision, okay, boom. Now we're keeping the law. Okay, cool. And then we got our temple back. Beautiful. Right? The Lord is blessing us, and through these things, we are getting great glory. Right? The renegades. Oh, these niggas, boy. These niggas so annoying, bro. I ain't even gonna cap. These niggas piss me off. But I can only imagine the Jews that were in the time of the New Testament. It only happened a couple hundred years ago. It's like when we sit back and we look at, you know, the coons of our nation today that are rather love a white man than ever even bat an eye towards an Israelite, that would rather help a white man than even bat an eye towards us. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And when I read this in First Maccabees 6, when I was reading it with Kanayak, it just clicked right away. And my question was answered. I was, why the hell were these niggas so like, what is with this law of circumcision that got these niggas tripping? They could have chose any law, like fringes. They could have chose the law of fringes. Why was it the law of circumcision? You see me? You feel me? First Maccabees 6:18. So it says, meanwhile, these hating ass niggas, boy. Meanwhile, the enemies in the fort at Jerusalem had been blockading the people of Israel in the area around the temple. Shalom, Daniela. And shalom, because I don't know if I said shalom to you. Constantly causing them trouble and giving support to the Gentiles. So Judas decided to get rid of them and called all the people together to besiege the fort. The people assembled and laid siege to the fort in the year 150. They built siege platforms and battering rams, but some of the men under the siege escaped. And together with some of the renegade Jews. Oh, wait, niggas. So you have these renegade Jews who are escaping with the Gentiles after those who were circumcising their children, those who were circumcising themselves, those who began to follow the customs of the law of Moses. After they defeated them, the renegade Jews chose rather to run with the oppressors than to change their ways. Now watch this. They went to the king and said, how long are you going to wait before you take revenge for what was done to our countrymen? We were willing to serve your father, follow his orders, and obey his decrees. Now, mind you, the renegade Jews are going to the king and saying this. I'm going to read it again. How long? We said this to God, by the way. We said this to God. How long will you allow us to suffer this torment? How long are we going to wait until you come redeem us? We said that to God, and these renegade Jews are saying it to the king. How long are you going to wait before you take revenge for what was done to our countrymen? We were willing to serve your father, follow his orders, and obey his decrees, but what good did it do to us? Or what good did it do us? Now our own countrymen have become our enemies. In fact, they have killed as many of us as they could find and have stolen our possessions. These niggas, boy. But we are not the only ones they have harmed. They have attacked all their neighbors, and now they have laid siege to the fort in Jerusalem and are planning to go take it. They have also fortified the temple and Bethzer. Unless you act immediately, they will do even more, and you will not be able to stop them. Imagine that. Imagine that your own people who choose to be uncircumcised, who choose to follow the customs of the Greeks, go to your enemy and says, unless you stop them and unless you act immediately, then you will not be able to stop them. And when are you going to take revenge on them? Man, come on, man. Imagine, since a child, a Jew growing up in Jewry, in the time of Christ, hearing these stories about these renegade Jews who decided to snitch on our own people because we were trying to be circumcised, because we were trying to keep the law of Moses, because we were trying to sacrifice righteously, and we were trying to purify ourselves. Imagine the hatred that a young man would then cultivate within himself towards an Israelite that is not circumcised. He will naturally think you are the descendants of the same people who sold out our nation. The Renegades, part 2. First Maccabees 75. When all the Lord in Christ, when all the godless, traitorous Jews, they just add into it. They not renegades no more. Y'all godless and y'all traitorous. Right? There are certain slangs. There are certain slangs that even exist today. You know, that Mexicans, I'm not saying it, that Mexicans say to other Mexicans when they moved to America and they refused to come back. There are slangs that happen when African Americans move to gated communities. You know, there are certain names that we call each other when we begin to act something other than ourselves, right? With Native Americans, there's one. Okay, I'll say something. We call the African Americans, I call them white boys. I flat up call them a white boy. Hey, bro, you're a white boy. I know somebody right now that I could call, and I'll tell her, hey man, did I ever call you white man? Yeah, you did. And why did I call you that? Because I be acting white. There's somebody that I could call that'll tell you that. I called you a white boy. You a white boy, man. You know, and I didn't like it, but a Native American told me that he was called a red apple, which is disrespectful as hell. Because he chose to move his location on where he lives. And the red apple is because he's red on the outside, but he's white on the inside. He wants to be white, but he can't be. You feel me? That's disrespectful, bro. And I ain't gonna cap. It's embarrassing, right? And I felt for the brother, like, damn, dude, like that. He's like, yeah, bro, I just want to better my life. So First Maccabees 7-5, starting from the top. It says, then all the godless, traitorous Jews led by alchemists, who wanted to be high priest, went to Demetrius. They brought accusations against the other Jews and said, Judas and his brothers have killed everybody who supported you, and they have driven us out of our country. We advise you to send someone whom you can trust to go and inspect all the damage done to our property and the king's territory, and to punish Judas, his brothers, and all who support them. We're talking about the people who were trying to keep the law of circumcision. Again, the whole point of this video is not to establish salvations for Israel. It's not to establish if we have to keep the law or not. It's to establish on why circumcision is such a big deal in the New Testament. That's the whole reason, right? This is not about doctrine. This is about the historical actions of the children of Israel before the Roman Empire. Right? Put a 1 in the chat if you guys are following along so far. Put a 2 in the chat if you don't understand. 3 if you want me to repeat something or you just have a question. Please be honest. Please respond, because it makes me feel like I'm talking to myself. I don't like to talk to myself because I could just record a video. Oh, Lily back. Shalom, Lily. You know what I'm saying? Hope Ahaziah had a beautiful class. You know, all praises. All praises, man. And so far, she the only one that know. She the only one that following along. Gazai, come on, man. You my big brother, man. Daniela can't vote because Daniela just got up in here. I see these writing a perfect window to show how some of our people reach or react to persecution as opposed to how our faithful. Man, listen, Mike 298. Well, I'm telling you, this. It just gets better, right? And when I was reading it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing a video. I gotta read more about it, but I'm doing a video. Because it was really First Maccabees 6. We read it in the GNT, and I seen Traitorous Jews, and I'm like, whoa, that's a division. That's a hell of a division right there. Traitorous Jews. You feel me? So when I seen that, I'm like, whoa, bro, we've been reading about the circumcision for a minute. I'm like, yeah, that's, and I just kept doing it. I'm like, oh my God. My answer is here. Now I know why the Jews in the New Testament were so upset about circumcision, and why there's this division between the uncircumcised and the circumcised, and why there is a division between the Jew and the Greek. It makes sense. It makes more sense, right? Shout out to Gonzalez Zealot. He has a IG. It's called 1016 Clothing. Get your merchandise. Sakari Riverside, right? Shit. You know, I love my brothers, man. I love my brothers. Boom. Diala says it also sets the precedence of why those practicing Jewry look down on the Hellenized Israelites. Right. I promise you. I ain't even gonna cap y'all. We've been on here for 2 hours, and like I said, it started late, like over an hour late. And even then I had to wait after I started it. But I apologize for those of you who didn't miss the apology or who did miss the apology in the beginning. Somebody had moved out and they were making a lot of noise because they're repairing something in that apartment, and it would just be unfair for y'all to endure through all that because y'all would have had to endure through it for like an hour. You feel me? And I didn't want to. I didn't want to do that to y'all, so I had to wait, unfortunately. But we here now. I might have to make a part 2 though. But the part 2 will probably be Thursday because I leave for Atlanta on Friday. But I might just make a bunch of different videos. I don't know, y'all. We just kind of going through the spirit right now. But y'all get the point, right? You have this traitorous Jew who wanted to be high priest, who ends up becoming the high priest, I believe. I know him and Jason is some, you know, the hell with both of them, right? They both died a righteous death, right? What I mean by that is they deserved it, especially Jason. But you see, Alcimus or Alchemist, he goes to the king, or he goes to Demetrius, and he's complaining about Judas, the brothers, and all the other women and children and the men that are with them, and saying, kill all of them, right? And these were people who were trying to practice circumcision. Mattathias forcefully circumcised everybody after he killed that man. And they regained the law of Moses, and they begin to continue to practice the law of circumcision, practice the sacrifice, and practice the other laws that they could. First Maccabees 7 and 8. All of these are in the GNT, by the way. King Demetrius chose one of his advisors, a man by the name of Bacchus. I'm pretty sure it's Bacchus. I keep struggling with names. Listen, I can't. Who was the governor of Greater Syria. He was an important man in the empire and loyal to the king. Verse 9. He was sent along with the godless Alchemist, whom the king had appointed high priest. Alchemist had orders to take revenge on the Jews. Imagine that. That Alchemist hated his brother so much that he wanted to take revenge on him. Right? Because he wanted to be high priest. Now, mind you, if we're reading this, they were reading that. Right? The Jews in the time of Christ and Paul, they have this information if we have this information, because they're literally their offspring. It's only a couple hundred years, not even a couple hundred years. So I can't stop in the middle of a verse. I didn't. Verse 10, it says, they left Antioch and arrived in Judea with a large army. Bacchus tried to trick Judas and his brothers by sending to them messengers with offers of peace. But when Judas and his brothers saw what a large army they had brought, they did not believe that the messengers said. They did not believe what the messengers had said. A group of teachers of the law came to. Oh my God, bro, this shit breaks my heart reading this shit. A group of teachers of the law came to Alchemist and Bacchus asking for justice. These devout and patriotic men were the first of the Jews to try to make peace with Alchemist and Bacchus. They trusted Alchemist, who was a priest descended from Aaron, and they thought he would not cause them any harm. Alchemist assured them of his peaceful intentions and solemnly promised that no harm would come to them or his friends or their friends. But as soon as they began to trust him, he arrested 60 of them and put them all to death on the same day, as the scriptures say. And it quotes a scripture. But the verse is pretty long, so I just got the point. So we see that this not supposedly, but this man who descended from Aaron, who's supposed to be a rightful high priest, who's supposed to execute the office righteously, chose to kill 60 of his brothers as soon as they began to trust him. He's a backstabber, right? It's supposed to say the wicked spring, or a wicked spring. This is First Maccabees 7 and 18. When this happened, all the people were afraid of Alchemists and Bacchus, and they said, they don't know what truth or justice means. They gave their solemn word and then broke it. So now not only did y'all go and snitch on us and go and try to get us killed by false accusations, but then you come to us, you make an oath with us, which again, we read in one of the sources that we value oaths, which we do. We value oaths. We value covenants. That's how we move and operate. That's literally how we were established as a people. An oath, right? When we came out of Egypt, we were married into an oath. And so when you read Ezekiel 16, it's literally said, these people are not a people. When I found you, nobody wanted you. But then I took you and I clothed you and I washed the blood off of you and I washed you with water, right? And I gave you jewels and I gave you a garment. So again, we value oaths, and this supposed high priest broke his oath. So now not only did y'all go snitch on us, but now you literally making an oath in a covenant and you breaking it, and you supposed to be an Aaronite. Right, let me read some of these comments. I missed down here. I got you, bro. You know I got you. Be careful traveling nowadays. Yes. Listen. But we all know Yahweh's time. If he calls me home, deuces. Hey, I'm living restfully. Looking forward to more lessons on this subject and others. I got you, bro. I promise I got you. Probably why Gad was so willing to honor the peace treaty with Esau. We're just inherently a covenantal people. We've always dealt with covenants. That's literally how we always dealt. We always moved with covenants. And this is why Christ had to tell us, stop making oaths and stop making covenants, because you niggas don't keep it. Because we always tried to keep oath, because it's something that was big to us. We make oaths. I'm gonna make an oath with you. And even the sons of Zebedee. Yeah, sons of Zebedee. Their mom was like, listen, you do. He said, hey, I don't know if y'all ready to drink of this cup. And then eventually they had to drink of that cup. Right? Fuck Alchemist, bro. Right, let your yay and they be name, man. Like and share the video. And Salakia about not uploading that Christian video. But y'all gonna have to wait, bro. Y'all gonna like it though. Back at this left Jerusalem, where did I leave off at? Oh, okay, bro. I'll read it again. When this happened, all the people were afraid of Alchemists and Bacchides, and they said they don't know what truth or justice means. They gave their solemn word and then broke it. Bacchides left Jerusalem and set up his headquarters at Beth Zayeth. He ordered the arrest of some of the faithful Jews and even many of the renegades who had willingly joined him. He had them killed and thrown into a deep pit. Bacchides put the country under the control of Alchemists, left troops there to help him, and returned to the king. He's a traitor, right? And even his own partners got killed, right? First Maccabees 7 and 21. Alchemist then began his struggle to establish himself as high priest. Every troublemaker in the country joined him. They gained control of the land of Judea and caused great difficulties for the Jews. It's literally making a distinction between the troublemakers and alchemists and the Jews, because the Jews were the ones who were trying to be righteous. Alchemists were trying to be evil, and with all the troublemakers. The troublemakers were those who literally did not care. Judas saw that the trouble Alchemist and his men had caused was even worse than the damage done by the Gentiles. So he's literally telling us this, which y'all are doing, are worse than the non-Israelites. So he's telling us that there's a distinction between the Jews, the troublemakers, well, the Jews, and then the troublemakers and alchemists, right? So verse 24. So he went around the whole country of Judea, taking revenge on all the men who had willingly joined alchemists and preventing them from leaving the towns and going into the country. So he was moving like an ancient member of Sakari when we was in the Roman Empire, slowly picking off Roman officials. Right, verse 25. When alchemists saw that Judas and his men were growing more powerful, and when he realized that he would not be able to stand against them, he returned to the king and accused them of great crimes. Mind you, Mike 298 says, it is so clear that's how they got Gad and Reuben with those covenants and treaties. Back to Mundo, right? The death of Judas. Now, mind you, the traitorous Jews got Judas killed. So imagine reading Judas Maccabees, which a lot of people don't know. It was literally the Traitorous Jews. Imagine reading this legend, because I'm telling you, what he about to say is tough. It's tough, and he died a manful and a righteous death. A little bit of pride in there. But imagine hearing all that and then hearing the reason why he died was, of course, Gentiles, but really the traitorous Jews sold him out. Right? First Maccabees 9:5. It says Judas had camped at Elasa with 3,000 experienced soldiers. But when they saw the enormous size of the enemy army, they were terrified. So many men deserted that only 800 Jewish soldiers were left. When Judas saw that his army was dwindling away and that the battle was about to begin, he was worried because there was not enough time to bring his army together. He was discouraged, but he said to those who were still with him, let's prepare for the attack. Maybe we can still defeat him. His men tried to talk him out of it. We are not strong enough, they said. Let's retreat now and save our lives. Then we can return with reinforcements and fight the enemy. We don't have enough men now. Judas replied, never let it be said that I ran from a battle. For if our time has come, let's die bravely for our fellow Jews and not leave any stain on our armor. Again, this has nothing to do with salvation is only for Israel. This has nothing to do with that we have to keep the law of Moses. This has nothing to do with who is this and who is that. This has everything to do with the history of the children of Israel and the problems which they were going through before the time of Christ. And here we have an example. So everybody has to then not taking no side, being an unbiased man, and put yourself in the shoe of a Jew growing up in Jerusalem and hearing the story of Judas, that he said, nigga, let it never be said that I ran from a battle. And I'm here to die for me and my fellow Jews who are trying to keep circumcision, because that was one of the major laws that they were dealing with, trying to keep. I was trying to protect the temple. I was trying to protect my people. That ain't no stain was on my honor. Imagine you hearing this glorious man, and then also hearing about these traitorous Jews that wanted to be Greek. Imagine what you would think about the Jews that are in Greek provinces that come to Jerusalem. Immediately, what the fuck is the Greek doing here? Who's this nigga? But again, in the beginning of our presentation, we already showed how uncircumcision was looked at as a term of reproach. Greek was looked at as a term of reproach. Right? So again, we just have to, just let it piece itself together, right? First Maccabees 9:17. It says the fighting became very fierce and many on both sides were killed. Finally, Judas himself was killed. Then all his men fled. Jonathan and Simon took their brother's body and buried it in the family tomb at Modin. And there at the tomb, they wept for him. All Israel mourned for him in great sorrow for many days. They said, it can't be The mighty hero and savior of Israel has been killed. The other deeds of Judas, his battles, his courageous deeds, and his great accomplishments were too many to write down. Oh shit. The persecution. Now, on the right side is literally different torture methods that the Greeks would use, right? The one on top is them slowly rotating a man over a fire. The other one is them putting a man in a brass bull or a metal bull with a fire underneath it. So the man would, and they would lock the man in that metal bull, and that man would have to sit there and be cooked alive. The bottom one is a man literally being stretched. Y'all see it. They're literally just pulling the ropes. So first Maccabees 9:21. And the Jews of the Roman Empire that were in the time of Christ and Paul and Peter and all of them literally knew about this. They knew about this and worse because they understood Roman torture. Right. So first Maccabees 9:23. After the death of Judas, the lawless traitors began to reappear everywhere in Judea. And all the wicked people returned. Also, that time there was a severe famine, and the whole country went over to the side of the renegades. Maccabees deliberately appointed some renegade Jews as rulers over the country. These men hunted down the friends of Judas and brought them all before Maccabees, and he subjected them to torture and humiliation. It was a time of great trouble for Israel, worse than anything that had happened to them since the time prophets ceased to appear among them. Which is a cold another precept for the whole the law and the prophets weren't until John, right? They didn't have a prophet in this time. They literally were just going to war and going through all these things. But we see that traitorous Jews, not Gentiles, not ethnic Greeks, not non-Israelites, our own people who wanted to be Greek were hunting us down and taking us to Maccabees, so we'll be a public shame, above a public humiliation and public torture. So imagine a child growing up in the time of Christ, hearing these stories, and then seeing a Greek come into town. You think he finna welcome him? You think he finna call him a Jew? We already read in one of the sources that literally there was a time where we was not letting Jews appear, and we are going to get the Bible. We're like, yeah, this is the Bible, but we're going to get the New Testament. We're going to see it being played out, and we're going to read Paul's epistles. Listen, if y'all want to be here all night, I am here all night, right? Maybe for like 2 more hours. So if y'all are with it, I'm with it. We don't have to make no part 2. You feel me? Put a 1 in the chat if you just want the breakdown. Put a 2 in the chat if you're like, hey man, I want to. I'm tired. I got that. I understand. People got lives. But put a 1 if you want to keep going, like through the whole breakdown, or put a 2 if you're like, I want part 2 because maybe this is too much information right now. Just be honest. You feel me? You ain't gotta lie to me. Lying to yourself is still a sin. You can't lie to yourself now. You can't lie. Where did I leave off? First Maccabees 9:58. Then all the renegades got together and said, look, Jonathan and his men are living in peace and security. If we bring Maccabees here now, he can capture them all in a single night. They went to discuss the matter with Maccabees, and he set out with a large army. He sent secret letters to all the allies in Judea, asking them to seize Jonathan and his men, but they were not able to do so because the plot was discovered. Jonathan and his men captured 50 of the traitorous leaders who had been involved in the plot and put them to death. Right? Literally, you got these young niggas like, yeah, man, I ain't gonna cap. You might have had kids playing and acting out like they were Judas. And you had the other people who were playing and acting like Greeks, and other people who were playing and act like alchemists, the priests. We're acting like we are not these people. Right? That's what we're acting like. Like kids are kids, right? You had kids playing characters in movies in our times. It's the same thing with them. They're hearing Judas and his wonderful stories. A little boy picked up a stick and he got to hit and whacking all the trees that were around him, imagining him killing traitorous Jews and killing the Greeks. You can't tell me I'm lying. It's a strong possibility they were doing that, right? We're done with the slides. Whatever y'all want. I have so many questions. Yeah, you can ask questions. That nigga said cops and robbers, Jews and Greeks. I go, that's cold. That's cold. That's a cold title. Legends never die. I'm gonna show you why. Ooh, there's a typo on the second one. I'm gonna show you why legends never die. First Maccabees and why I made that the title. First Maccabees 14-25. When the people of Israel heard about all this, they asked themselves, how can we express our thanks to Simon? Now, mind you, a lot has happened, because if you take a look, we're at First Maccabees 9 in this slide. We're at First Maccabees 14. But I really just want to get the point. I want to get the point of why circumcision was such a big deal before the New Testament is involved. And certain chapters are just not, relevant to the topic. Still, everybody should read it, and preferably in the GNT, because the GNT gives great it makes it a little bit easier to read, right? So First Maccabees 14-25, it says, when the people of Israel heard about all this, they asked themselves, how can we express our thanks to Simon and his sons? He, his brothers, his fathers, whole family have been towers of strength for our nation. They have fought off our enemies and set the nation free. They recorded this on bronze tablets and set them up in columns on Mount Zion. The inscription read as follows. Now, literally from verse 25 past 48 is the inscription. Well, maybe not past 48. But I wasn't posting all those in the slides, right? But y'all, it's literally just a reaccount of all the glorious acts in which they did. Right, but this is the point. First Maccabees 14-48. It was decided that this declaration should be engraved on bronze tablets and set up in a prominent place within the temple area, and that copies should be placed in the temple treasuries where Simon and his sons would have access to them. So literally, they're writing these actions down so that we don't forget them. So in the time of Christ, in the time of James, his brother, in the time of Peter and the disciples, and in the time of Paul, they're still acknowledging these actions. So it's not a far-fetched idea, nor is it wrong for any of us to say that the Greeks in the New Testament, when it says there's no difference between a Jew or a Greek, is because they're the same people. There's just a wall of hatred between them. Division in Israel. But that's not a new thing, though, right? Nehemiah 13-23. In those days also, Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab, and their children spake half in speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. So they couldn't speak Hebrew. And I contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them and plucked off their hair and made them swear by God, saying, you shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, him did outlandish women cause to sin. Shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil and transgress against our God in marrying strange wives? So what was the problem again? They always got us committing idolatry, and they always got us doing some off shit. It's just the thing. You feel me? Sooner or later, they're gonna keep on trying, and they're gonna get your ass one day. But we see that, he got mad. He's like, hey, y'all can't even speak Hebrew, bro. So even not even speaking the language could be a problem, right? Of course, worshiping another God is a problem, which was going on, but not even speaking the language can be a problem. right? And not even pronouncing things could be a problem as well. Was that the end? Oh, I skipped slides. I knew I wasn't tripping. Judges 11:1. Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of an harlot. And Gilead begat Jephthah, and Gilead's wife bare him sons. And his wife's sons grew up, and they thrust out Jephthah and said unto him, You shall not inherit in our father's house, for you are the son of a strange woman. Then Jephthah fled from his brethren and dwelt in the land of Tob, and there were gathered vain men to Jephthah and went out with him. Right, the vain men are just like rebels. You feel me? But you see here that Jephthah was neglected his father's inheritance because of his mom. His mom was yeah, she was a strange woman. What? I just read it. A harlot. Lord, I don't know why I couldn't think of the word. A harlot. And because his mama was a harlot, they casted him out. So it's not a strange thing that we will put divisions between each other. We always did it. Right? Judges 12:5. And the Gileadites took passage of Jordan before the Ephraimites. And it was so that when those Ephraimites which were escaped said, Let me go over, that the men of Gilead said unto them, Are you an Ephraimite? If he said, Nay, then said they unto him, Say now, Shibboleth. And he said, Sibboleth, for he could not frame to pronounce it right. Then they took him and slew him at the passage of Jordan, and there fell at the time of the Ephraimites 40 and 2,000. Not that they couldn't pronounce it properly, but there's a difference, and they understood the difference on how to determine if this was the Ephraimite or not. So they said, say Shibboleth, and he said Sibboleth because he just couldn't pronounce it right, and therefore they killed him. But this is still tribe against tribe. There's always been a division between our people. It's not a new thing for us to read in the New Testament and still see a division between the Jews and the Jews that were Hellenized. It would be a new thing. And it's not a new thing for us to sit up here and call them names like Greek. We'll call them names. I'm telling you, I call certain niggas white boy. I do. It's just a joke for me. But I have said it in anger one time when I was younger. Because niggas do not like being called white boy when they're angry, right? Are the books of Maccabees records of these actions, or can these writings be found? Huh? Are the book of Maccabees record of these actions, or can these writings be found? What you mean? Oh, you talking about these? Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's in this chapter. Is what they wrote. Yeah, they wrote it in the chapter. I just didn't grab all of it. So I'm gonna do this. Any questions? Any questions in the chat? Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. What's this one? What the hell? Let me know if y'all got any questions. Oh, you know what? That's been the wrong damn color this whole time. So good. That was the color it was supposed to be. See. Any question? Put your questions in the chat. Now, mind you, Friday, I know I said I was gonna go into Jew nor Greek, like an in-depth breakdown. I might still do it, right? I'm still trying to figure out the understanding of Zechariah 12:10-4. Let me see if I can help you with that. I got so many damn sources open. It's ridiculous. That's not how I want it. This is the way. Okay, so let's take a look. Zechariah 12 and 10, it says, "And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in the bitterness of his firstborn." So this is speaking about Christ, right? They'll look on me upon whom they have pierced, right? So those who pierce Christ, not only hold on one second. I do need to turn it all the way up. That's why it's not working. So like, yo, I got a new light bulb. I can control that thing through my phone. I ain't right with it. My bad. I don't know if y'all know this, but I could be getting sidetracked. But yeah, this is speaking about Christ, and I will see him whom we have pierced. In that day there shall be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Hadad Rahman in the valley of Megiddon or Megiddo. Right now, this is speaking about the valley of Armageddon, right? So this means Hadad of pomegranates. I just want to look into the word really quick. Hadad of, what does Hadad mean? Mighty of the pomegranates? Huh. That's dope. But the valley of Megiddo is like the valley of Armageddon, right? It says the place of crowds, right? Because there's going to be a massive war in that area. And the land shall mourn, every family apart, the family of the house of David apart, and their wives apart, the family of the house of Nathan apart, and the wives apart. Family of the house of Levi apart, all the families that remain, every family apart. Now I ain't gonna cap the mourning thing. I don't know. I'm not even gonna cap to you. I don't know. It says they're gonna lament and wail. I don't know if this is crying for joy, crying of sadness because they lost family. I don't know exactly, sister. I ain't even gonna cap. Ask me the next time I'm live. I should have an answer for you on that. Great question. Now you give me something to learn. Oh, you said through 14. Did I read through 14? Yeah, I did. But yeah, I appreciate you. You gave me something to learn now. I went to part 2. My background is Baptist church, so I'm aware of these books, but have not read them fully. I am thankful that you are putting these online and I can access them on my schedule. Yeah, for sure. I was gonna keep going. So if you guys listen, if y'all got questions, definitely shoot your questions. So we ended with hold on. Yeah. All right. 15-second break. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can go ahead and stretch. I gotta stretch. You boy. That's what my other prophet guy was saying. He would get back to me. Your other prophet guy. Nah, I got you, sister. I got you, sister. Nah, because I like to learn new things. You feel me? So you gave me something new to look at. So I'll definitely come back with you on an answer. Now, if you have an Instagram, my Instagram is on the top of the screen. you can also hit the email, which is, I'll put it in the chat. Right, which is Sakari Phoenix 1715 at gmail.com. Right. You can email me. And then if I do have an answer before I go live, I could just shoot you the answer. You know what I mean? If you don't want to wait. But no, I got you, sister. It's my duty, it's my job. Right. But we left off on, of course, the traitorous Jews. We left off on alchemists doing just such an evil thing to our people. Do I want to use my Bible for this? Hold on, man. Ooh, almost knocked down. Okay. I'm gonna lock down all my cords. That's what I don't want. That's exactly what I don't want. I thought it was some deep scripture, No, I get you. I'm pretty sure it's just, mourning and wailing because we done lost so many people, or we're just happy. Damn, Tazarap. Oh, great. It's on the ground. Give me 1 second. Of course. Salakia, y'all. I didn't mean to do all that. Oh, that look dope. What? Y'all know what I bought. Y'all know what I'm at. You're not. You're not. No, you're not. What am I thinking of? Oh, I want to read about, of course, this nigga Jason, bro. Oh my god, bro. This dude is so evil. What the hell? This dude is so evil. So Second Maccabees is more so it goes more in depth on like certain other stories. It's the same timeline, but it's just given a different account of different people, that's happening in the same time. So Jason, was around the same time as First Maccabees. It's not like a continuation. Some of it might be, but no, I don't even think some of it might be, to be honest. I think all of it is just like it's two different accounts of the same thing. So like Matthew and John, it's two different accounts, but not Matthew and John. Matthew and Mark. Where is the GNT at? Oh, okay, here we go. I'll be not reading sometimes. Where is this? Oh. Y'all gotta read Second Maccabees 3. I advise all of y'all to read Second Maccabees 3 because it's just what the high priest was going through and how much the children of Israel just felt for him, right? They loved him so much, right? He was a righteous high priest and they loved him so much, and he was pleading that these people would not take something from the temple, and all the town was just scared because the temple was going to be corrupted, right? But let's read about Jason. Oh my god, I can't stand this dude. Right, Second Maccabees 4 and 7 in the GNT. It says, later, when King Seleucus died and Antiochus, known as Epiphanes, Epiphanies. Oh, it is Epiphanies. I'm tripping. Became king. Jason, the brother of Onias, became high priest by corrupt means. He went to see the king and offered him 27,000 pounds of silver and 6,000 pounds of 6,000 more pounds to be paid later. Jason also offered him an additional 11,250 pounds of silver for the authority to establish a stadium where young men could train and to enroll the people of Jerusalem as citizens of Antioch. What y'all think they finna? Never mind. Listen, they're gonna build a stadium to train. We already talked about that. You know, that's how you get down. The king gave his approval. And just as soon as Jason took over the office of high priest, he made the people of Israel to change to the Greek way of life. He began by abolishing the favors that John had secured for the Jews from previous Syrian kings. So, background information, we were making treaties. We made a treaty with the Romans. We made a treaty with the Syrian king. We were making treaties with different people, right? Different nations, I should say, for protection, right? And they were favoring us, and the Lord was literally on our side at that time. But of course, in the time of Maccabees, it's literally just a rise and a fall with our people, right? It's not a stable, we're just rising, right? No, it's always a rise and then a fall, and then a rise and then a fall, right? Where did I leave all that? So John was the father of Eupolemus, who later went to Rome to make an alliance and to establish ties of friendship. Jason also did away with our Jewish customs and introduced new customs that were contrary to our law, like circumcision and uncircumcision. With great enthusiasm, he built a stadium near the Temple Hill and led our finest young men to adopt Greek customs and participating in athletic events. And let me tell you, the athletic events, some of them weren't clothed, right? So just the defiling of our people was just something that was continuous, and Jason was doing a gymnos, right? Jason was, he was with it. He was all for it. So verse 13, I'm telling you, it just gets worse. Because the unrivaled wickedness of Jason, that ungodly and illegitimate high priest, I'm telling you, if you read this as a kid and you grow up hearing these stories, you are not going to rock with the Jews that are in Greek provinces. You're not, right? They might be trying to come back to practice their original heritage, but because of the hate that you have in your heart, you won't even let them, right? It just said that ungodly, illegitimate high priest, that craze for the Greek way of life and foreign customs reached such a point that even the priest lost all interest in their sacred duties. They lost interest in the temple services and neglected the sacrifices. Just as soon as the signal was given, they would rush off to take part in the games that were forbidden by our law. Y'all know what for games were forbidden by our law, right? These niggas were literally working out naked. They did not care about anything their ancestors had valued. They prized only Greek honors. This is literally Greek assimilation. They're literally full-fledged Greeks. They're doing everything the Greek way, right? And you can almost bet your life. No, don't do that. But you can almost bet that they were uncircumcised in that temple. They wasn't practicing the law of circumcision. They was uncircumcised in the temple. They was uncircumcised giving the sacrifice. They was uncircumcised bringing the sacrifice. Everybody was just uncircumcised because everybody was honoring the Greek customs and loved it more than the laws of God. And this turned out to be the source of all their troubles. For the very people whose ways they admired and whose customs they tried to imitate became their enemies and oppressed them. It is a serious thing to disregard God's law, as you will see from the following events. Right. So again, we're just constantly seeing the same thing. It's just traitorous Jews. It does, bro. It does. It sounds too much like us in America. We're so quick. We're so quick. Some niggas quick to get off a camp so that they, boy, I tell you. So first Maccabees 4:43, right? Some niggas who can't wait to get out of camp so they can take their fringes off. Crazy work. Because of the innocent Menelaus was brought to trial. Because of this Lord in Christ, Tazarap. Because of this incident, Menelaus was brought to trial. When the king came to the city of Tyre, the Jewish authorities in Jerusalem sent 3 men to bring charges against Menelaus. When Menelaus saw that he was losing the case, he offered Ptolemy, son of, now mind you, let's just read about Menelaus. We're just gonna read verse 39. Meanwhile, with the support of his brother Menelaus, Lord in Christ, Lysimachus had on numerous occasions robbed the Jerusalem temple and had taken many of its gold objects. When the word of this spread around, crowds began to gather in protest against Lysimachus. So Menelaus is not a righteous brother. He's literally helping somebody rob the temple. Verse 45. When Menelaus saw that he was losing the case, he offered Ptolemy, son of Dorymenes, a large bribe to persuade the king to decide in his favor. Ptolemy then asked the king to go outside the courtroom with him, as though to get some fresh air. And there he persuaded him to change his mind and declare Menelaus innocent of the charges against him. So Menelaus was set free, although he had caused the trouble. But the 3 men whom even the cruel Scythians would have declared innocent were sentenced to death. The 3 men had spoken in defense of Jerusalem, its people, and the sacred objects stolen from the temple, but they were quickly and unjustly executed. Some of the people of Tyre, however, showed their disgust with this crime and their respect for these men by giving them a splendid funeral. Menelaus stayed on in his position because of the greed of those in power. He grew more evil every day and became the worst enemy of his own people. So again, this just, it shows us Jews who are literally Greek. I can't say it no other way. They're literally Greek. I would call them a Greek, me personally, and that's not because of doctrine. That's because I did it before I even believed in the Bible. Right? When I wasn't reading the Bible, when I didn't care about God, I literally was calling African Americans white boys when they acted white so much that they hated their own people. I called them white boys. So this is something that Tazarap did even before picking up the Bible and before putting on fringes. I literally just called African Americans that acted white boys. Y'all white boys, right? They're not literally white boys, but they act like it so much that it's like, I'm just gonna identify you as a white boy, right? So the Father purposely divided us. Yeah. Yes. I would tell you the Father definitely purposely divided us because we have no free will. So let's go to 2 Maccabees 6. Let's read about because there's more dietary law. It kind of goes into the same thing, with Eleazar and the dietary law and him willing to die because of it. It doesn't go so much in on circumcision. We can read that. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are familiar with 2 Maccabees 7, right? The 7 brothers and the mother. If y'all are not, I would of course advise all of you guys to go read it. You can read it in the GNT. It's a little bit more easier. But I'll shorten it up. 7 brothers were tortured in an inhumane way because they would not eat pork. Right. And the mother had to watch all her children die. Right. And the youngest was last. Now we understand a mother's love for the youngest child. We all understand it. And the mother was told that you can just persuade your son to eat it and we will spare his life. And she said in her language, in Hebrew, I'm going to shorten it up. Don't you dare listen to these white boys. You die like a man, and I'll be reconciled with you sooner or later. And you know what the son said? Mama, you ain't gotta tell me nothing. Because I was gonna do that regardless. It don't even matter if you was gonna persuade me. I was still gonna die. Right? But that's the love that she had for her youngest, that she was willing to see him. And I'm not talking about just the swift death. This is a slow, death, right? Even went to say, like, what you waiting for? One of them even stuck their tongue out because they was cutting out tongues, and one of them stuck their tongue out, like, go ahead. Like, what you think I'm gonna do? But I ain't gonna eat that. Hell no. I'm gonna die. But again, us just as regular humans, unbiased, when we take ourselves out of an Israelite perspective and salvation is only for Israel, take yourself out of that perspective and just look at it. If you were a Jew living in Jewry and you heard all of these stories about these men who were traitorous, who sold out our nation, who got Judas Maccabeus killed, who literally was warring against us when we were trying to keep our commandments, who lied on us, who deceived us in an oath and in the covenant in which we take a prized possession of, who robbed our temple, who destroyed our temple, who scattered us as a people. And those are our people, but they love Greeks so much. And it's like, bro, then you got these other kids that grew up in Greek provinces that are literally, they have no effect on the history that passed. They didn't do anything. They were just born. There's already a war, an inherited war between the Jews that are in Jewry and the Jews that are Hellenized. There's already a war. There ain't no stopping it. Right? So let's read 2 Maccabees 6. Of course, they're defiling the temple. The altar was destroyed, not destroyed, but it was defiled. That's the word, defiled. Verse 6. It says, "It is impossible to observe the Sabbath, to celebrate any of the traditional festivals, or even so much as to admit to being a Jew." It was even hard to admit to being a Jew. Right? Each month, when the king's birthday was celebrated, the Jews were compelled by brute force to eat the intestines of sacrificial animals. Then, during the festival in honor of the wine god Dion. Just imagine you're speaking Hebrew and you have to get accustomed to this shit. We have more sounds. You feel me? We have way more sounds in English. We ain't got no V. There's not a sound that's outside of cha. But English is a lot harder to pronounce than Hebrew, because it's really easy. Just but there ain't no silent letters. Lord in Christ. Y'all want to know how the heck I was spelling tsunami before I seen how to spell it? But imagine going from Hebrew and then you got to get accustomed to this. A Y before an S that comes after an N? Nigga, what? Hey, man. Yeah, bro, y'all could keep that. Give me the Hebrew, bro. They were required to wear ivy wreaths on their heads and march in procession on the advice of Ptolemy. Okay, let's just get the point. Verse 18, 2 Maccabees 6 and 18 in the GNT. There was an elderly and highly respected leader of the law by the name of Eleazar, whose mouth was being forced open to make him eat pork, but he preferred an honorable death rather than a life of disgrace. So he spit out the meat and willingly took the place of torture, showing how people should have courage to refuse unclean food, even if it cost them their lives. So it's the same thing with listen, man, you ain't okay. Dionysus. Okay, I appreciate you, man. It's a little easier to spell, or a little easier to say. This is the first time I've read about the Israelites having to fully deal with traitors everywhere in our nation. Listen, man, growing up in heathen nations has never been good for us. Never. Oh my God, that's such a good point. Growing up in heathen nations was never good for an Israelite. Best thing we could do is just grow up around our people. Ooh, I almost caught a mean cramp. This live would have been over if I caught a cramp in my leg. So we see that Eleazar was forced to put swine in his mouth, but he spit it out and he literally walked to the place of torture. Like, yeah, I'm here. Y'all ain't even got to drag me here. I ain't even finna kick the screen. Come on with it. Because he was showing people, y'all better be ready to die for this. That includes circumcision. You guys better be ready to die for this. It says, those in charge of the sacrifice have courage to refuse unclean food. I did that wrong. Those in charge of the sacrifice had been friends of Eleazar for a long time. Because of this friendship, they told him privately to bring meat that was lawful for him to eat. He need only prevented to eat the pork. They said, in this way, he would not be put to death, meaning give him some beef, give him some lamb. This nigga says I am with my give him a clean food and he can eat it. It's not against his law, but it's to deceive the masses into thinking that it is pork. Right. But Eleazar made a decision worthy of his gray hair and advanced age. All his life he had lived in perfect obedience to God's holy law. So he replied, kill me here now. Such deception is not worthy of a man of my years. Many young people would think that I had denied my faith after I was 90 years old. If I pretended to eat this meat just to live a little while longer, it would bring shame and disgrace on me and lead many young people astray. For the present, I might be able to escape what you could do to me, but whether I live or die, I cannot escape the Almighty God. If I die bravely now, it will show that I deserved my long life. It will also set a good example of the way the young people should be willing and glad to die for our sacred and respected laws. As soon as he said these things, he went off to be tortured, and the very people who had treated him kindly a few minutes before now turned against him because they thought he had spoken like a madman. Oh my God. So since the nigga gave it 100, them niggas got mad. Gangster. Since he kept it 100 and he kept it a buck, they got mad when at first they was trying to, this nigga, hey man, Diana, you ain't got to be telling everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's not spelled like that. It's CHEYENNE. Hey man, this nigga trying to rebuke somebody. But he literally, first of all, them niggas was that he's a madman. Chain knee. Chain knee. They spoke of him like he's a madman because he was refusing to do it, because he was refusing to show an example to disobey God's law just for a couple more days of life, because the nigga about to die the next day by natural death. The Lord possesses all holy knowledge. He knows. I missed something. Verse 29. Verse 30. When they had beaten him almost to the point of death, he groaned and said, the Lord possesses all holy knowledge. He knows I couldn't have escaped these terrible sufferings and death. Yet he also knows that I gladly suffer these things because I fear him. So Eleazar died, but his courageous death was remembered as a glorious example, not only by young people, but by the entire nation as well. Right. So it's an example that, of course, all of us should follow, but it's an example that the young Jews in the time of Christ were reading, or before the time of Christ were reading, and they were also reading about traitorous Jews. Now, why does that matter? I'm gonna read y'all something, bro. Now, a devil by the name of Dave did a terrible breakdown on this. Ephesians 2. I've been trying to get bro to debate me. He'll go on TikTok and debate, everybody else. I'm not debating on a panel full of Christians because they just gonna cut me off, overtalk me, and then kick me out. It happens every single time. I'd rather debate on the platform where it's just me and him, and if they want a moderator, they can have a moderator. I don't care. But he don't want to debate me. What are y'all men talking about? God, call me out your love. Man, them niggas turned on him because he spoke the truth. It's crazy work. Ephesians 2:11. Now, with all of that in mind, with the sources, with the history, with the prophecy, with the books of 1st and 2nd Maccabees, we now have historical, with the references of uncircumcision and circumcision in the Old Testament and how that word was utilized. With all of that in mind, now we can read about the circumcision. Now we can read about how uncircumcision was used as a term of reproach. And no Christian, no Israelite, no nobody, Shalom Tazarap, no nobody can tell us you can't utilize it like that. Because we can, because we do, right? Have I heard of Asian Doll Princess CD? That sounds like it belongs in one of those cases that got like 50 CDs in them, and you got to get like the zipper, and they come in like like a folder. Nah, that sounds like a bootlegged movie. What is that? What the fuck is that? So let's read Ephesians 2. It says, now mind you, I can't even start with Ephesians 2. Because there's so much. 1 Peter 2, 1 Peter 1. There's just so much. We're not gonna start with Ephesians 2. Okay. So Salakia, if you wrote that in notes or if you're taking notes, I apologize. Some real shit. Okay. Hold on. So let's start with 1 Peter 1. Right. I went into this, I think in my last video. Was it my last video? I went into one of my videos, right? 1 Peter 1:1. Peter, an apostle of Yahushua Mashiach, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. Right. So when you look at this in the NLT, it says, this is a letter from Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ. I am writing to God's chosen people who are living as foreigners in the provinces of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. Right. So watch this. So we take a look at that word for strangers, G3927. And of course, it's and the base of an alien, i.e., a resident, pilgrim, stranger. All right, when we take a look for that word for scattered, because it says strangers scattered, that word is diaspora, which of Israelites dispersed among foreign countries. Dispersion, i.e., specially and concretely the converted Israelite resident in Gentile countries, which are scattered abroad. And what are the provinces? Galatia and Pontus and Cappadocia and Asia and Bithynia. Right. So you had our people who were living as foreigners, but they were labeled as strangers. He says to the strangers who are scattered. He called him a stranger. But is he actually a non-Israelite? No, it's an Israelite. He was just living like a heathen. So what was he called? A stranger. Right? We have to now get division. We have to now show people that there was always a division from the Old Testament, which we've showed, that there was a division in the time of first and 2nd Maccabees, which is a historical time period of the Israelites right before the New Testament that people just do not know. A lot of people don't know about 1st and 2nd Maccabees, and they literally think that from Malachi to Matthew, it's literally it's the perfect time. It's not, bro. You're missing more than 200 years. So John 4, right? Let's take a look at this. Let's read about it. John 4:7. It says, then came a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus saith unto her, give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the holy city to buy meat. So there's a woman of Samaria. She comes to Christ. Christ says, give me something to drink. Verse 9. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have zero dealings with the Samaritans. There's a difference. She said, y'all are not supposed to deal with us. Now let's take a look at that word for dealings. Right. Right. To use with anyone, use jointly, to associate with, to have dealings with. Right. Of course. I mean, it could mean intercourse, but that's not what we're talking about. So there ain't no dealings, bro. There's no association between you and us. Right. Yahushua answered and said unto her, if you knewest the gift of God and who it is that saith unto you, give me to drink, you would have asked of him, and he would give you living water. The woman saith unto him, sir, they have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where are you going to get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well and drank thereof himself and his children and of his cattle? So now, of course, we can read the whole thing. It's beautiful. But the point is that she acknowledges that she's an Israelite, but she also acknowledges that my tribe, or the people that I descend from, which is the same people, but the sect or the group that I come from, are not supposed to be dealing with the group that you come from. And she labeled him as a Jew. How is it that you, being a Jew, are asking drink of me? So there's a difference between this Jew and this Israelite woman. What would she be called? Well, she's called a woman of Samaria. Right. So let's get another one. Another famous one. We'll just get the point. Right. We'll get the point, and then we'll expound on Acts 11. Right. But I want to just get the point. Acts 10 and 28. It says, and he said unto them, right, Peter is saying unto Cornelius, you know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. One, there is no law of God that said Jews cannot keep company of another nation. There's no law of that. Because if that's the case, Christ sinned when he was talking to the Syrophoenician woman. Christ would be sinning. Because he talked to a non-Israelite. The damn Christian dude hit me up an hour ago, but I somehow just got the message right now. Maybe he'll click the link. Let me just send it to him. That way, if he does read it, I'll worry about sending it to him. He just got it. Lucky, y'all, give me 1 second. Right. So there is no actual law that says we cannot keep company of one. Let's see what company means. The hell you got going on? Keep company. Right. To glue together, cement, fasten together, to join, fasten firmly together, join oneself, cleave to. Right. To glue passively, reflexively, to stick, cleave, join self, keep company. Right. There's no law that says we can't do that. Because technically Moses joined himself with a non-Israelite. But this is an unwritten law, a tradition. Right. So let's read. I'm not even checking the chat. Don't even matter. Let's read Acts 11 and 1 from the top. It says, and the apostles and brethren that were in Judea heard that the Gentiles had also received the word of God. Now, mind you, the only thing that brothers and sisters can do, now talking about doctrine, is utilize Gentiles. We can show you ethnically where the children of Israel will receive salvation. We can show you ethnically where there's certain things that the children of Israel will go through in the kingdom, and non-Israelites. and we don't see them receiving the same things. We don't, right? Acts 11:2. It says, and when Peter was come up to Jerusalem, they that were of the circumcision contended with him. Now we have the circumcision, right? There are a group of people that are calling them the circumcision. So let's take a look at this word for circumcision. G4061. Circumcised, the act or rite of circumcision, day of the circumcision, is a term of the Jews, is a term used of the Jews, of Christians gathered together among the Jews, the state of circumcision, Christians separated from the unclean multitude or truly consecrated to God, the extinction of passions and the removal of spiritual impurity. That's circumcision of the heart. Says the right, the condition, or the people, literally or figuratively. So it could mean a lot of things, right? What is with this Asian doll? Who the heck? I know you're not. Hold on. Oh, I thought you was talking about her. It's like it. Um. So, um, there's finna be those of the circumcision that are finna be contending with him. Now, mind you, he's going back to Jerusalem, where the temple is. Verse 3, saying, thou wentest in to men uncircumcised and didst eat with them. That's how it is an unlawful thing, because those of the circumcision viewed it as something that was wrong. Right? CD is hilarious, man. Nah, you good. You good. It's all good. Um Oh Lord, y'all are hilarious. But that's the unwritten law. That is the law that it was, not okay for them to do, because the circumcision was not okay with that. Right now, mind you, how did they know that they were uncircumcised? How did they know that they were circumcised? What told them that? Right, verse 4. But Peter rehearsed the matter from the beginning and expounded it by order unto them, saying, I was in the city of Joppa praying, and in the trance I saw in a vision a certain vessel descend as it had been a great sheet knit, or a great sheet, let down from heaven by four corners. And it came even to me, upon the which, when I had fastened mine eyes, I considered and saw four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creepy things, and fowls of the air. And I heard a voice saying unto me, arise, Peter, slay and eat. But I said, not so, Lord, for nothing common or unclean hath at any time entered into my mouth. Now, mind you, this is a code, concerning dietary law. I'm going to show you why. Because Peter was rocking with Christ. Christ left the church in Peter's hands. And if Christ left the church, no, Slakia, hold on. If Christ left the church in Peter's hands, he said, have I finished the broadcast? Nigga, join the live, bro. Hold on, we might have somebody joining. Okay, he said he Ben was gonna confirm me. Rocking we hours, y'all. Mm. One second. See if he's gonna join or not. He might be joining. Oh, let's see. Any questions in the chat? Might have to put these headphones on if he comes on. I mean, it could be applied to it, but that was more so for Peter's time. But it could be applied for further instances. Trying to see. Hold on. What time is it? It's 8. What time is that thing? You say 8 or you say 9? Is he gonna join? Waiting for him. Let's see what he says. He said he was going to join. Apparently, he's been talking about confounding me for the longest. Circumcision now is cutting off the lower desires. No, circumcision can be flesh too. I would listen to it or watch it on YouTube. We do have to keep the law of Moses. For sure. Shalom, Akim. My bad. Shalom, Akim. Shalom, Ramil, Qatar. The wordplay, you feeling all right? You doing good? Lord willing, you and your sons is cool, man. I have a thought. Well, I have a thought. Yes, sir. Still here. We are currently waiting for a Christian. We're going to see if he's really about it. African brother of light. Circumcision now is the cutting off of the lower desires. I'm about to expose this nigga on Facebook, bro. See, I mean, I'm in this Christian group chat or group, and he keep posting in there like it's so easy to confound y'all. And then I'm trying to get him on here because he said he'll easily confound me, and he not trying to join. He making excuses. I'll watch it on YouTube. Nah, nigga, trying to talk to you. Try to reason with the scriptures. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. To real fam. All praise. I never said another about a debate about seeing what you believe. Yeah, that's the discussion, not a debate. I said discussion. I didn't say debate. I know you don't want to debate me. I'm talking about discussion. Let's see, guys. Maybe we can talk him into doing it. He's probably watching right now. I ain't go cap. It's on my face. My face ugly as hell. I'm tired. I'm straight off a plantation. But yeah, so again, we just went over this powerful presentation. Pathor, because you just joined. We just went over this powerful presentation, showing that why exactly the Jews were so upset about circumcision or so focused on circumcision, and what was this difference between the circumcision and the uncircumcision, and why the Jews made a big old deal about it, to where it caused a great division. But there's a lot of information that was put out that y'all gotta definitely go on. He said, read First Peter 3:21 real quick. You can ask me. You ain't gotta tell me what to do. I ain't shit, but I'll do it. Next time I gotta put a question mark or please on something. Don't tell me what to do. First Peter 3:21. It says the like figure whereunto even baptism does also now save us, not the putting away of the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience toward God by the resurrection of Jesus Christ. All praises. Oh, you've been in silence. All praises, man. Appreciate it. Shalom, Kadar. All praises, brother. It's cool, man. I've been watching God Logic and Sam, watching their interaction, seeing what the Hebrews believe. So this nigga gonna watch God Logic and Sam Shimon to see what we believe in instead of talking to me. It's crazy. Oh my god. Any questions in the chat? Y'all can shoot y'all questions in the chat if y'all want information. To be honest, we will probably do a part 2. Because I'm about to just get into Juno Greek right now, and I'd much rather have an in-depth breakdown utilizing some of the slides. Plus I do plan on recording a whole separate video about what we just went over, right? So it's going to be recorded. I might take this down. I ain't gonna cap. I might take it down. If there was a lot of people on the live, I wouldn't have, but wasn't that many people, so I might take it down and then just re-upload it. Now, if you want the slides, you can hit me up on IG and we can figure out how to get you the slides, and you can have the slides yourself. If you just want to screenshot the slides, that's up to you. But if you want the slide presentation, you can utilize the Instagram, or you can hit the email sakariphoenix1715@gmail.com. All right, you're scared, man. You wasting my fucking time, bro. Nigga, you were gonna get the presentation regardless if you asked or not. Throw out a can. Greatly, it's a great pleasure to be at your service, to teach y'all brothers, man, and sisters. It's like, yeah, man, y'all can shoot y'all questions. We might be in here for a little bit longer. If you got trouble with a verse a Christian pose, or if you just want understanding on the scripture, if I got the capability of answering it, I will. You know what I need? I just need a new body. That's what I need, boy. That's exactly what I need. A new body. Anybody got your house number? Anybody got your Howard number so I can get anybody? Hold on. Does he think hey, you got your Howard number, man? Shoot it over, man. I need it. He said 777. You're hilarious, bro. You're hilarious. Cause man, finito. The work that I'm doing, I don't know if I can make it to 50. Let's see, cause I'm pretty sure you lying, bro. I don't get why they lying. I'm looking at a comment. He said we said nothing about a live. I said, would you like to have a live discussion? He said, sure, go right ahead as long as you use the Bible, New and Old Test. I said, check your DM. Then we started hitting on Messenger. No, I ain't gonna cap Judah Love. You be posting some, crazy comments sometimes. Yeah, I ain't got no questions. He's a second at your six. Pretty cool preset to go Acts 11 6. That's it. Y'all, man. I'm tired, man. But I'm addicted to this. I'm so sick of these loud ass cars. I'm telling you, hey man, if y'all want loud, things in the kingdom, live away from me. Yeah, I'm living with the old folks where it's peace and quiet. I'll go over and visit y'all, but can't stand them loud ass cars, especially in the early in the morning, boy. Yeah, talking about 2, 3 in the morning, motherfucker revving shit. Uh, well, you damn right. There is go preset. That's different though. Am I leaving y'all? I'm faithful to the nation, man. Lord willing, the hour keeps me that way. Honestly, you're 67. You are teaching me things about the Maccabees you can make, brother. Get your battery recharged. Oh man, I can say. Hey man, I'm gonna listen to the elder, man, because the rest of y'all don't supersede him. All right, I didn't know you was an elder. I'm assuming a brother, right? And brother, quite frankly, I probably still won't even go to sleep if I get off this live, boy. I probably won't go to sleep till like 12 or 2. 12 or 2. But no, it's appreciated. Not appreciate, but you know, pray Vote tribe. You hear that, Daniela? That's a real king right there. They would have built like a baby rhino. And then you got Issachar. You feel me? That's a powerful brother right there. Daniela hating. You trying to correct me on my spelling, on my wording, fuck. I done fucked up again. My pronunciation. I think put 8 rhinos. You know what that means? You know what that means? Any question in the chat? I know what somebody listen. We got to get one more question answered. You feel me? One more question. And then you know what I'm saying. I'll be about my business. All right. One more question. I'm about to grill me some burgers. Quality is what's up. Quality of what? Because at first I thought you was talking about my camera. What you talking about? Oh, the camera. No, praise. I need to get a new one. What is the prayer we say right before Passover meal? We say a couple. I know that we say I know we say the Lord's Prayer. I could say it right now, but I think we say Psalms 51 as well. Or we might say number 6. Yeah, no. Might be the Shema. Yeah, I think it's the Shema. I think that's what you're referring to as a Shema. Who the fuck is it? Shema Mrim. This African ass nigga. Yeah, I think it's the Shema. Yeah, he said, nah, it's Deuteronomy 6. Deuteronomy 6. I think it starts at 4. Yeah, but yeah, that name does sound musty. Name do sound musty. Are you love my new mic? I appreciate you. That bitch on payment plans because I cannot pay that in full. I was broke as a joke. I was broke as a joke. Broke as a joke. It's all good though. Well, I Ahabatham Yashala, of course, Yabaraka Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Yeah, I hope that y'all are praying for all of us. I hope that y'all are, you know, doing a little bit of fasting. Cause you know, brothers is kind of going through the motions, and you know, it's just that's just tough. Because our people are setting us way back. We are going so far back, and I hate it. I hate it. I don't hate them. Can't hate them. I won't hate them. But I just can't with this hatred that we got going on around here. No, so if y'all haven't watched Cap's recent live on Sakari San Diego, please go watch it. Because sincerely, that's I will stand behind that 100%. You know? But you know, of course, I do want to say I do want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Abanahu Yahweh. Of course, I will do so always in the name of His only begotten Son, who the Lord inwardly calls Jesus Christ's real name in Hebrew, Yahweh Shai. Kwame Yashala to all the brethren. I appreciate you, sister, very much so. Appreciate you bidding us safe travels. Yeah, Captain Tazarap is the leader now. For sure. Havathon and Kwame Yashala. Right. You been here this whole time? You been here this whole time? Ayash been here this whole time. I didn't even know it. All praises. Shalom, God. But yeah, man, of course with that, you know, giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, we do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, Kwame Yashala, and you know, y'all stay safe out here. I heard my name. Yeah, y'all stay safe out here. Shalom.